So this episode begins beneath the flat world. We see the Hope, but directly in front of the Hope is a Romulan warbird, Valdor type, a very large ship, much larger than the Hope. And as the camera moves, we see that this vessel has actually sustained quite a bit of damage. But the two ships are facing off, one in front of the other. The title of this mission is A Serpent's Egg. But we are quickly going to move to a hallway on the Hope. So remember where we ended last time? Tuzan and Montgomery, just after Isha had killed herself, the ship had gone to red alert, and both of you called to the bridge. I'm pulling you guys just out of the courtroom because you had collected yourselves and realized that the ship was in an emergency, and you need to get to the bridge.
Doctor, are you okay?
I will be. In this line of work, you are surrounded by death.
I see. We are at battle stations. Shall we head to the bridge?
And to make sure that there are no other deaths that happen today.
Agreed. Monty's just going to quickly type on a panel to get someone to seal that room and prepare their remains in a respectful manner.
And racing around the corner is Nurse Wen, and she sees you, both of you have just walked out of the courtroom and the doors have closed. And she runs up to you, Tuzan, and she says, Commander, we just got a notice about a medical emergency in this room. Is everything okay?
It was Isha.
Do I need to get security?
There is nothing left of her. She chose that instead of facing the possibility of what was coming as a result of her actions, to take her own life. And it happened before either myself or the ensign here could do anything.
And she looks at the two of you, and I think, Montgomery, you said that you'd actually taken a little damage from the heat of being so close to Isha?
Yeah, I was trying to put her out.
And Wynn looks to you. Ensign, are you okay?
I'm fully functional.
Okay, okay, Commander, I guess we'll should we get a forensics team? I guess this is not exactly a medical emergency anymore.
Get a team up here to make sure that the end of life rituals for the species for Isha's culture are followed. Make sure that everything, forensics can happen after we've taken care of that.
Understood, sir. And then the red alert in the background still continues, and you hear another message across the whole ship, and it says senior officers to the bridge. And Wynn kind of steps back and she says, I guess we're battle stations. I should get to sickbay. If you'll excuse me.
Seal the room for the time being. Make sure that sickbay is taken care of.
We'll do, Commander. I'll be sure to get you a report.
Understood. I turned to Montgomery. Let's get moving.
Monty's already walking towards the turbo lift.
And as you guys walk down the hallway, you see officers racing back and forth, getting ready to take their stations. It's still just as before, mostly blue uniforms. There are very few red and yellow uniforms going to different stations, but most everyone seems to just be going back and forth to their assigned locations. But as you guys step off the turbolift onto the bridge, there's the red emergency lighting, and the captain is already at his station. All the stations on the bridge are filled. We just have no characters, but it is filled. On the view screen, you see a Klingon or a Romulan warbird. In fact, very, very close to the Hope.
I'm going to take a position next to the captain.
Williamson turns. Commander, this is kind of a surprise. The ship just showed up out of nowhere.
There aren't many Romulan ships left in the area. Have we hailed them to see if they need any medical assistance?
We have not. We sent out. Well, our sensors just picked them up. Apparently, the distortion from the world above us has completely masked their approach. I was just about to actually call off for an alert because it doesn't look like their weapons are armed. And he turns, Mr. McGutt, and he says, Ensign, are you okay?
I'm perfectly fine.
And he turns to Tuzan. What happened?
There were complications in the trial. Isha, knowing the information that she found out about Commander Lovely, she chose to incinerate herself instead of being the possibility of being part of the black prison for the rest of her life. Happened right in front of our eyes. Montgomery tried to put her out, but there was no stopping.
Tuzan, when you say that, everyone in the bridge turns, and you realize that even though there's a Romulan warbird that should have your attention, everyone is focused on you when you're saying this.
Not exactly how I had imagined ending, sir.
And Montgomery, on your console, you are getting a hail from the Romulan ship.
Captain, we're receiving a hail from the Romulan ship.
I guess Ensign put it on the view screen.
He'll toss up to the view screen. Channel's opened.
And Montgomery, when you go to open the channel, you notice that it's not actually a transmission. It's more of an audio message. And the audio message states that this is the Romulan warbird Terex, and apparently the ship has sustained substantial damage, and they are requesting medical assistance.
I'm going to scan the ship.
Okay. Give me a reason science, and the ship can assist with a sensor science. The difficulty is going to be a 4, and that's mostly going to be because of the interference from the planet.
Okay.
Could I assist?
Yeah, you could.
I can roll for the ship.
Tuzan, how would you assist? As first officer, it's probably going to be more of a command type task, but you could actually get over there and start helping if you'd like.
I was thinking I would assist in having a medical background, looking for like clusters of where survivors are, as well as looking for safe places to land the shuttles for medical evacs.
Okay, so for you, it's probably a medicine reason.
Okay, I'm going to give you 1 threat for an extra dice.
Okay.
And do I have anything for this? Yeah. So I do get 1 success from Positronic Brain anytime I'm using reason. So
oh, hey, there you go. That's 1 extra success. Yeah.
Yeah. So my free question I want to ask, because I'm ops, I get the perks of engineer and science, I believe. Is this legit battle damage?
Yeah, it looks like disruptor fire damage.
All right. And if everyone's cool with it, that extra momentum we got. How recent can I tell this damage? Like, how fresh is it? Like, am I worried about someone sneaking up on us while we're helping them?
I think that is a good question to use that extra momentum on.
It is a very prudent question.
So from what you can tell, the battle damage probably happened within the last few hours.
Captain,
Yes, Ensign.
the damage the Romulan vessel has suffered is only a few hours old. Whoever assaulted them may be nearby. If we do render aid, we may become caught in this confrontation that they're in.
I think it's still our duty to help them, though. In turns to you, Commander. What do you think?
I tend to agree. Our job here as a hospital ship is to render assistance to those who need it, no matter their background, no matter their affiliation. In a way, hospital ships are supposed to operate outside of war.
I believe you misunderstood me. I am simply stating that we will become engaged in a fight. We should prepare for that outcome.
I would agree with that. Let's start making battle preparations, but also alert all medical staff that we will have multiple medical emergencies coming from the ship.
And you see Monty's hands just flying around the console as he's sending out different messages.
And Montgomery, you've also got a report from the Romulan ship on the number of injuries that they're talking about. They're talking about 700 to 800 casualties that they want to send over.
I'm going to start going through. Did they send me their scan results, of who's critically injured, who has a stubbed toe versus stuff like that?
The thing is, they have not triaged really anyone. There are a few patients or people that are marked with okay, critical and stuff. Most of them are not.
Okay, are their shields down?
Their shields are down.
I'm going to scan all the life forms to see which ones are most in critical condition, and I'm going to prioritize those ones.
I'm going to turn to the captain. Another thing we can do, I can take a small medical team from the reserves of the medical personnel and take a shuttle over and start triaging over there for transport.
And Williamson turns to you. Ensign, does that ship look stable enough to send people over?
One moment, sir. Do you want me to roll for this, or would I just know from the scans I have?
You asked me about the damage, so I'll give you this one for free. It's tricky. This ship has taken a lot of damage.
We could send over some emergency repair crews to set up force fields for the breached areas and shore up structural integrity with some generators. But I would recommend we get the critical out first and then focus on those we can help in a slower manner.
Williamson turns to you. Commander, I'd certainly defer to your judgment here, but if we brought people on board the ship, it might be a better place to triage them. I'd hate for you to encounter, ship issues in addition to trying to help the wounded.
We are more equipped over here to take the more severe wounded, I agree. But we've already set up the system for all the doctors to come into our 4-step plan. If I can go over there and do the small triage, just like the cuts and bruises, things like that, I could get some of the Romulan crew over there that are less hurt back on their feet to help repair the ship. If we are in for a fight, as we think we are, getting the most people back up on their feet as soon as possible is the best course of action.
That's a good plan, Commander. Go ahead, Montgomery.
Commander, I do have 3 triage teams on standby and also 1 operation team on standby as well, in case we cannot move any injured individuals.
It's a great plan, Ensign. Let's start helping. Let's see what this medical ship is made of.
Captain?
Yes, Ensign.
I would also like to encrypt command functions on this vessel, just in case.
What do you mean?
past interactions with the Romulans have led to subterfuge and controlling over a vessel that they then board.
Okay. I like where you're thinking. It's probably best to be prudent. So do whatever you think needs to be done. I'll leave that in your hands. Of course, encrypting the main computer so no one could get unauthorized access is a good idea.
Very well. And he's going to do whatever Data did to screw over the Borg in First Contact. Like, that's his encryption level. Do you want me to do a roll for that too?
Actually, yeah, I would like you to. Let's do probably an engineering daring. I'm gonna do. Why don't we do it like this? You do a roll for me, and the number of successes you get will be the difficulty someone might have to actually break the encryption. Engineering daring.
Okay, guys. Do you want me to do something really goofy?
Depends on what said goofy thing is.
I'm always down for goofy.
Max out my dice count was threat.
Okay.
I'm sitting at
I
9
really-
threat currently. Just let you know.
I don't want a Klingon warbird to uncloak and start firing at us.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you give him that much, he can bring in 2 neck bars, which canonically there are in the area.
Okay, how about this? Is one threat fine?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm okay
I'm
with 1 threat.
fine with 1 threat.
Okay. Let's see. What's this technical expertise do for me? Hey, okay, so I got technical expertise, which allows me to re-roll. If I'm working on like a ship's computer, which I am. Don't have a focus, but I think that's fine. No focus. There we go. Yeah. I'm going to re-roll that one. Yes.
Okay, so difficulty 4 for someone to break this encryption that you've created.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's
Good
pretty
rolling.
solid. And as you've worked on that, the captain looks at you, Tuzon and Montgomery. Okay, you two, now that we've kind of got that settled, let's go in my ready room for just a minute. I want to talk about Isha.
Understood. Monty's going to stand up and pull his shirt down and head to the ready room.
I will follow in tow.
And when you step in, the captain goes behind his desk and he pulls out a flask of something green and he pours himself a drink and he pours the two of you something and he pushes it to you.
I'll take it.
I'll take it and just look at it and hold it.
He says, okay, now that we're off the bridge, Tuzon, what the hell happened?
It came out, the information came out during the trial that Commander Lovely was working for Starfleet Intelligence. Isha, knowing that her actions caused a disruption in some sort of Starfleet Intelligence operations, knew that no matter what the outcome of the trial was, Starfleet Intelligence would get a hold of her and basically make it so that she never see the light of day again.
She referred to it as a black site prison, I believe. The description of such a prison would mean that no records of her arrival or detention would be kept. Any treatment that she underwent would be at the whim of whoever was in charge of her. That's if a black site prison within Starfleet is to be believed to exist.
Oh, I believe they exist. I don't know that they are necessarily legal, but I believe that they do exist.
Williamson kind of falls in his chair and he does the Picard facepalm for a second.
I'm sorry, sir. The bridge was not the best place to tell you the news, but in the moment, it was prudent to tell you.
No, Commander, that's not where my thoughts are. My thoughts are, how did I fail Lieutenant Isha so completely that this is where she ended?
What's worse is I was going to find her, for the most part, innocent.
Monch is
Restricted
gonna raise an eyebrow and look at you.
restricted duty, definitely under a close eye, but it was found that the phaser that was used was malfunctioned. It was not working under normal parameters. It overcharged the blast. It wasn't anything Lovely did or Isha did to cause that to happen. It was an unfortunate accident of that occurred. The actions of turning a phaser on another officer would have come with repercussions. But seeing as I was hoping that we could use Lieutenant Isha's skills still, at least until we return to Federation space aboard the ship. I was going to have restricted duty be the most punishment, as well as formal reprimands on her record.
While I can understand her fear of punishment, I guess it doesn't really matter anymore, but I like to think that maybe, well, Starfleet does look after its own, even in circumstances like this, but I'm sorry, this is a lot to process. And he pulls a pad. I'm gonna tell Counselor Aaron to schedule just to keep an eye out. Lieutenant Isha was a formidable presence on the ship, especially as a department head. There's going to be a lot of confusion.
I agree with you, sir.
During the turbolift ride to the bridge, I've already compiled a new duty roster for the security division.
Always on top of things, Ensign Montgomery.
I do have the process and capability to multitask in a variety of ways. I've also examined the different cultural methods we should approach for Isha's remains, and computed a new program as well for security implementation.
Did you vet the people who should be our new chief of security?
The most senior staff right now would be 8 of 13. Although she holds the rank of ensign, I believe her experience does put her in a better position than most.
I will say I haven't had time to look over personnel records, but from what I've seen, I would agree. I would like to look through some of the other security staff, but it's not a bad choice for a new chief of security, Captain.
The second candidate I had was a Lieutenant Igni. He has a remarkable service record as a former chief of security on a Roosevelt vessel. He has opted to be operations aboard this one, though, from his posting.
Unfortunately, I think both Igni and 8 are on the away mission to the planet.
Then, upon their return, we should talk to them both, see what they have to say.
In the meantime, I can extend my operational task to cover security until one of them returns.
Considering we may need security personnel here in the coming hours, I would agree with that, Ensign.
And Williamson puts his cup down. I want to ask you both candidly, and there's nothing wrong if the answer is yes. Do you need some time to process this?
No.
Should you relieve yourself in order to handle this?
No. I can still function.
I'll be all right, Captain. Unfortunately, as a doctor and growing in the occupation by a lot of death, it still hurts, which is always good, but I can still perform my duties.
It's difficult to process a loss under any circumstances, but circumstances such as this could be truly difficult. I trust both of you. If you need to take a moment, take care of yourselves first. Ensign Montgomery, I don't know, you said you were okay. I would appreciate it if you went to the lab at some point and gave yourself an examination. We have a lot going on now. I need everyone at their best if they're going to be on duty.
Understood. And sir, you had asked a question. How could you have failed Isha? Was this an open-ended question to be answered?
Ensign, if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them. I have a feeling that I'm going to be thinking about the answer to that question for a long time.
From my observation, it is your hesitation, your pauses and delays. You take on actions that would go against what she would believe without any explanation. In her view, and how her species functions, it would be considered cowardly. I think if there is more communication and explanation, which you do not have to give, we are here to follow your orders. But the hesitation, I believe, grew paranoia.
Thank you, Ensign, for your honest feedback. I will certainly consider what you've said. And Commander Tuzan, I'll leave it up to you to decide where you would like to help this crisis with the Romulans. If you feel best resuming your duties as a doctor, I'm certain the staff could use your help. Or, of course, if coordination would be where you think your efforts would best be spent, of course, I leave that to you.
I think the medical teams here on the ship are under good hands with Dr. Bateman. I do believe if I can get over and help on the Romulan ship, get the crew without severe injuries back up and running, as well as maybe even start helping with reforming the command staff or helping with repairs. If we're going to have a firefight coming, which if these disruptor blasts are only a couple of hours old, it's completely possible, then we're going to need a fully functioning warbird.
It just occurred to me, Commander, that we need all hands on deck here. Chief Linares is still being held at sickbay 2. Well, we have to discuss the ramifications of what has happened with Chief Linares and his, his original. It needs to be discussed at length, of course. I think at this point, the Chief's record speaks for itself. If leave that to you, of course, but I think putting the Chief on duty for now with observation is perfectly acceptable.
I would agree. We do need all hands on deck. If the casualty numbers are what they're saying, we need every medical person up and working.
Well, thank you too. I know this whole court-martial situation was difficult to begin with. And I guess we'll get through this together. And like I said, we all have a lot to process. Continue to look out for yourselves and to look to the other crew. They're going to need leadership at this point. With so many losses in senior staff, there's going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of fear and fatigue. Just remember to take time for yourselves and to tell everyone if they need help, it's okay to ask.
I'll make sure to spread the word. I'm going to go meet with Dr. Bateman, fill her in with the casualty reports as well as what the plan is over to the Romulan vessel. I would also like to would be our Delta team with Dr. Daleks over with me. They are designed to take care of the minor injuries. If we can get 2 full medical doctors over there and fixing up as much of the Romulans as we can, it'll make the that come over here more prudent for everyone else.
Very well, Commander, especially as you head aboard that ship. Based on what the ensign has told us, just proceed with caution. I don't know what you're going into, and especially if that ship is coming apart. We can't really lose anybody else right now.
No unnecessary risk. Understood.
All right, you two, you're dismissed. We have a lot to do. Ensign, I'm serious. You're very important to this crew. Please make sure you're all right before resuming duties.
Understood. I will make my way there now. He's got to put down the cup that he didn't drink, and he's going to stand up and like, may I leave?
Of course, you're both dismissed.
Captain. And he'll walk out.
I'm going to down whatever's in the cup and head to Dr. Bateman.
Okay.
Are we both in the same turbolift now?
Probably.
Doctor?
Yes, Ensign.
Hell of a day.
Boy, is that the understatement of the century.
I have built a small talk subroutine. I don't know if it is the appropriate time to be initiating it right now.
Does kind of keep what is happening.
I will send out orders to the operational division and security to let them know what had happened once I clear maintenance.
Good idea. And until we can get 8 or this Igni back, go ahead and assume Chief of Security as part of your operations, just so we have somebody in the role.
It is a good thing I'm already operational gold.
The color suits you.
I do like the color of red, though.
Make it a drive for.
Maybe in a few years.
I just look at him like, it would take me a lifetime. I'm still wearing blue.
Oh, as first officer, you are to approve duty rosters and any changes. With all of this issues happening today, I would like to submit a possible rotation to crew changes. We operate off 5 shifts. It'll be shorter shifts, allowing everyone a little bit more downtime.
Let's get through the events that are about to unfold with the Romulan ship and whatever comes with it. Else, that I will take a look at your duty rosters. I like the idea.
Understood. The doors open up and he'll just step out and turn to look. We will get through this.
We have each other. That's what we need.
He'll smile for the first time since the whole entire incident has occurred. And then he'll just turn and walk down to the cybernetic maintenance lab.
And I'll continue probably another couple floors to meet with Dr. Bateman in main sickbay.
Okay. And we are actually going to transition to the shuttle interior. So the shuttle from last time, you guys have taken off from the flat planet and you made your way just almost over the rim, heading down to where the Hope was and where you're expecting it to be. And Talise, you've been flying this shuttle. Not sure you can tell us your familiarity with Starfleet vessels. It's been a little more sluggish than you would have expected. And of course, the situation with Dr. McGowan is you guys came up with a plan to lower her vitals so that she could make it a little longer. Her condition is still the same. She's still critical.
So my main question is, we have not detected the Hope on sensors yet.
You have not, but this is not surprising to the rest of you guys. Talise, you don't really know the situation with the Hope, but the Hope positioned underneath the planet. So the planet underneath it was a pretty much total sensor dead zone. So you guys have not detected the ship, but that's not really a surprise. You didn't really detect it much when you were leaving anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I sort of look over at 8 of 13 and I say, 8 of 13, I have a question for you.
And I might have an answer, please.
I obviously did not know our recently departed friend, but I would find it prudent that we inform your crew of the situation as fast as possible.
I was thinking the same thing, but with the hope being underneath this planet, communications would be a bit difficult at the moment.
Well, if I were to pull some power from the defensive systems, I might be able to get us to the Hope in a much more expedient fashion.
Well, you're more than welcome to try if you want to.
Very well. And yeah, Talise is going to pull power from shields and weapons and put it into the engines.
We're going to do a roll for that, which will become apparent in just a minute, but I'm going to give you a complication.
All right.
And I'll tell you what that complication is after your roll. So I'm going to make you do the ship task of power management, which I think is daring or control. It's going to be daring in this case. A daring engineering, the difficulty is 2. You can succeed at cost.
Okay. No, I don't really have a focus here, unfortunately. But let's roll and see what happens. Survey says 1 success, and yeah, I'll succeed at cost.
You transfer some power from the defensive systems, and as you do that, the lights inside of the shuttle blink out. You just have the red emergency lighting, and then the lights come back on, and you hear sort of like a popping sound from the back of the shuttle and a bit of smoke.
I may have just burned out our shielding, which would be a problem normally, but we still have the navigational deflector.
I guess that's our only real option. I'm not much of an engineering individual. Ensign McGinnis, are you experienced in engineering at all?
I use replicators occasionally.
So that's a solid no. Just fly fast, Major.
That I can do.
Not that it's any help at all, but I heard that Lieutenant Igni was actually pretty handy in engineering.
You're not helping.
And Talise, as you start to angle the shuttle around the edge of the planet, over the speakers, the computer says, "Warning, life support failure imminent. Warning, life support failure imminent."
All right. One of you needs to take the control for a moment. Apparently, I need to go perform percussive maintenance on one of the life sustainers.
Yeah, I mean, 8 of 13 can take the controls briefly.
Yeah, once control has been transferred, Talise stands up, goes to the back of the shuttle, and tries to assess what the hell's going on.
Talise, as you make your way down from the control area, let's say maybe you get to the bottom of the steps here, the shuttle lurches to the side and you kind of fall over, but you catch yourself, and then it lurches back to the other side again.
I just sort of look back at 8 of 13 like, why?
I kind of look at the console in front of me. Is there a certain reason that is happening?
The reason it's happening is the maneuvering thrusters are losing power. So you were kind of in the middle of a turn as you were moving around the edge of the planet, and then half of the maneuvering thrusters to make that happen lost power, and your maneuver was just crazy, and then they came back on and they righted themselves.
We lost some of our maneuvering thrusters for a second, but they seem to be working fine again.
Keep an eye on them.
Of course.
So Talise, as you open the back maintenance panel for the shuttle, You see a lot of sparks, some smoke. Doesn't look very good.
Is there something I could do to extend the length of life support?
Well, let's just do a check and I can tell you about the current state of the systems on the shuttle. So let's maybe do an engineering reason difficulty 1.
Sure. Don't have a focus here, so we're just going to roll it straight. 2 successes, so we get a momentum.
Very nice. So right away, of course, you can spend the other momentum for questions if you'd like, but right away, what you can tell is the entire shuttle, not just life support, is bleeding power quite significantly. And it's, looking around kind of makes sense. The back of the shuttle took the brunt of the damage when the shuttle crashed, so it's possible that many of the power systems are damaged.
Okay. I would like to give you the 1 momentum and 1 threat to create the advantage that, as this is a Starfleet vessel, there is an emergency backup. Now, it's not like a long-term backup, but it is potentially something I could route power through that would hopefully get us to the Hope.
Okay.
Basically, I'm trying to co-opt the secondary reactors talent and make it like a shuttle talent, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense. So let me move to the next map and I will translate that advantage into what we're going to deal with here. Drawing everyone's attention here, this is the shuttle that you guys are on. Your sensors, since you have moved beneath the planet, are pretty much dark. So this, the bar that we have represented is the amount of power that you have. I'm going to give you 2 more power, so you have 8 power. Pretty much, you need to find the ship. You don't detect it on sensors, which is not unusual. You're also bleeding power. So you have to decide how you're going to divvy up your power, how you're going to handle that. But we're going to handle this sort of like normal space combat, even though you won't be fighting anything. But I'm going to ask each of you to tell me what you're going to do. And, you can take actions and all of that. For movement, each square here is going to cost you 1 power. And once both of you have acted, it's going to cost you 1 power to maintain life support.
Okay.
So you currently have 8 power. So I'm going to ask 8, since you're in the driver's seat, where would you like to go? You don't have to go like 8 squares. You could go just a few squares. But that will cost you for every square 1 power.
Okay.
And if you run out of power and you can't give me that 1 power for life support, then you guys will start taking damage.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Let me look at some stuff for 8 of 13.
And you can propose to me all sorts of other solutions. You don't have to just fly and try to maintain power. And there's plenty of other things you could do, but since it's not exactly rules as written, I'll tell you how much power some of those things will take.
Okay. Hold on. I would assume that this shuttle does not have warp capacity, correct?
It does. However, right now the warp engines are a little flaky.
Gotcha. So if I wanted to say do like a micro warp jump, it'd probably be a little bit more difficult than normal.
So if you want to do a micro warp jump, you can move as many squares as you want. It'll still cost the same amount of power, and I'll make you do a roll because there's at least 1 ship under this planet that you know of.
Yeah. Okay. I'm open to suggestions, ELH, but I think the safest bet is probably to just go 1 square at a time, just to save power and not risk complications.
What I would ask is, if we're treating this like pseudo ship combat, what would be considered medium range?
Probably 30 or probably 6 squares is medium range. Go 6 squares to like Yeah. 6 squares to 12 squares from where you are would be medium range.
Okay. Because if we move within medium range, it doesn't cost power, and it also allows us to do a difficulty 0 task. So it is something we can do to maybe get some momentum, which then can be used to keep power running.
In this case, though, I'm changing the system a bit because of the malfunctioning engines. You don't get that free movement. It's actually going to cost you 1 power to move any of these squares. So like 1
Okay,
power per
gotcha.
square. Yeah.
1 power
And
per
that's
square,
because of
okay.
the situation with the shuttle.
I mean, I say we move probably 4 squares
Okay.
and then do a scan if we can pick up anything, and then I'll do a power management.
Okay, that's good with me. Yeah, we'll move. Let's see, so we'll move 1, 2, and this will be 4. So that's 4 power gone. And if I'm able, I can run a scan.
You certainly can. As you're maneuvering the shuttle, it is fighting you. Like normally you can sort of set the course and the shuttle will go, but you notice what's happening is the maneuvering thrusters are not firing in sequence to create the maneuver that you're expecting. You manage to get through it, but the shuttle inside, you guys are thrown around left and right, back and forth. It's just the shuttle is not responding to commands as it should.
Yeah.
You can do a scan for me. Let's do a reason science difficulty 4. This would just increase the range of what you can see, unless there's something else you're trying to do.
I don't really think there is anything else we're trying to do. That wouldn't be a hot roll for 8 of 13 because we would be shooting for a 10 on that roll.
It would actually be Talisa's major strong suit. So I guess if it makes sense, I can run up and do the scan, then run back to do some power management.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay. I'm gonna give you 3 threats so that I'm rolling 4 dice. I'm assuming a sensor operation as a focus.
Yep, that's perfect. So tell me, are
Okay.
you trying to just increase your sensor range, or is there something in particular that you're trying to go for?
I think Talise is looking for a certain signature that would be common to a Romulan warbird, aka the quantum singularity that powers it.
Okay.
My hope being that it maybe is a little bit easier to detect compared to, say, like a warp core.
I don't know if it would be easier, but you know what you're looking for because you've been on this ship.
Well, I'm waiting to find out. Only 3 successes unless the shuttle assists me.
Normally the shuttle would assist you. In this case, the reoccurring theme here, the shuttle is not helping you guys. You guys are fighting this ship. And in fact, it cannot give you an assist at this point.
All right. Then unless we can succeed at cost, yeah, I only have 3 successes.
With that scan, you notice that it drains even more power from the shuttle. So I'm lowering you down to 3. And then over the loudspeakers again, warning, life support failure imminent.
Oh, this is fantastic. We're blind. We can't find our ship, so we're probably going to die here unless you can pull off a miracle, Major.
Might I just say that you have a tremendous perchance for stating the obvious?
Well, cleverness isn't exactly my strong suit, so try to keep us alive.
I will do what I can. And yeah, I think I'm just going to go on the back and see what I can do power-wise.
It is an engineering daring difficulty 2. However, I am going to create a complication and make it a difficulty 3. The complication is this shuttle is not working with you as you're trying to like mess around with the panels and reroute stuff, wires and stuff. You're being thrown around as the shuttle is just not giving you a steady ride at all.
I have technical expertise, if that would apply here. So I'm going to give you a threat for a third die. Don't have a focus. Let's see what happens. Oh dear. Well, I'm going to re-roll that 1. All right. Well, I mean, I succeeded and I got rid of the complication, so that's good news.
So I believe it just gives you 1 power for start, and then you can spend momentum for extra power.
Correct. Yeah, it's one power to start off with, and then 1 momentum equals 1 power.
That'll move you up to 4. I would allow you to give me threat in exchange for momentum in this case.
Yeah, I would say give him 2 threats, though we're a little overpowered.
Yeah, because then we'll be back down to what would be full once we have to keep life support going. So
So 8, what are you up to while this is happening?
I'm just trying to keep the shuttle somewhat steady. Probably not doing a very good job, but I'm trying. How many squares do you think we should move here at ELH? Because I feel like 4 might be a little risky, but I think we can move a couple and be fine.
I would actually say that 4 would be beneficial. Because that's more space we're covering. Because what we don't want to do is be stuck in a crawling scenario.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and move another 4 then. 1. Oh boy. 2. I guess we'll move like right here. That doesn't look good.
So I'm going to take, first of all, I'm going to take 4 power off of you.
Yep.
And give me a con daring here. Difficulty, so you moved, let's see, you moved 4 squares. I'm going to say difficulty of 3.
Okay. See, I am going to give you a threat for a third die. And 8 of 13 will have a focus here because she just got Smallcraft as a focus for her activation.
Perfect.
And let's see what happens.
That is perfect. So what happens, 8, is as you're flying the shuttle forward and kind of banking to the right, all of a sudden, you know, as you're getting closer, you notice maybe at the last moment that there's a Romulan warbird right in front of you. And at the speeds you're traveling, you have just not even a second to react. And you bank the shuttle down very quickly. Everyone inside the shuttle is thrown again to the left as the shuttle makes a dip underneath the warbird. And throughout the view screen, all you can see is green and then also some damaged parts of the ship. But you are insanely close to a Romulan warbird.
Okay, good. And from what I can tell, are we at like the rear of the warbird?
Yeah, it looks like.
Oh, so that's a Romulan warbird. That's fun. Because I can safely assume we're on like the underside of this planet, correct?
Yeah, you guys have gone past the top and then looped down underneath the planet at this point, which is why it's so difficult to scan anything, which normally a sensor scan would give you this information. You need to find the hope and find out what the area is, but you're kind of in a sensor dead zone, and the shuttle's situation is also compounded on the problem.
Yeah. Can I see the Hope at all through the view screen?
You can't. All you can see at this point is green Romulan warbird.
Okay.
Talise, without prompting, is going to go over to the communications panel and is going to open a channel.
I will let you do that for 1 power.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. This is Major Talise to the crew of the Terex. We are experiencing a power failure. If at all possible, please relay our position to the Hope and or provide us with a power stabilization beam if the Terex is capable of doing so.
You don't get a reply, Talise, and you're so close to the ship you can make this determination. It looks much worse for wear than when you left it.
Well, either they've heard us and are doing as I've asked, or their communications are down. It's hard to say from here.
And to punctuate that, you hear again from the computer, warning, life support failure imminent. And I believe that takes you down to 0 power. And inside the shuttle, the lights go out and you only have the red emergency lighting. And it starts to get much colder inside the cabin of the shuttle. You guys know from your training, a vessel this size with 4 people breathing the air, you would have, maybe a few hours, but the temperature will drop very quickly without effective life support. So it would be a race between, do you die from freezing or do you die from suffocating if you don't have any power?
Does the Terex have a shuttle bay that we could fly into?
I think it does. Yeah.
Then I think Talise is going to take back over the con and say, I will steer us towards a shuttle bay in the hopes that at least some force fields on the Terex are working.
Okay. Guess it's better than dying.
So in order for that to work, Talise, though, you're going to have to get some power to the engines to be able to navigate this thing because you're dead in the water at this point.
All right, well, it's another daring engineering. Yeah, let's roll and see what happens.
It's difficulty 2, but I'm giving you another complication, which may or may not come into effect.
Okay. I'll give you a threat for a 3rd die. All right. Hey, we actually have momentum for once.
Okay, so as you start to move the shuttle towards where you know the shuttle bay for the Romulan vessel is, so how many successes? You got 3 successes. I'm going to move you 3, like right here. But you do notice that you found the shuttle bay on the Warbird, but the shuttle bay doors are closed. That was the complication.
Fantastic.
And I'm assuming that, the signals I'm broadcasting aren't getting it to open.
They have not opened the doors yet. And that is actually where we are going to stop the scene as the shuttle is moving to the closed cargo bay doors. Actually, Montgomery, are you with us or did you have to bail? I know you said you were having a situation.
I'm back.
Okay. Hopefully nothing is burning.
No, something was, but put out now.
Okay.
Not my unit.
So you've made your way
Christ.
to the laboratory where you were going to do the exam on yourself. And as you've walked in, there's Dr. Finley. This is kind of one of his home bases. And walking around the other side of the lab is Margaret the chicken.
Greetings, Dr. Finley. I did not know that you were interested in cybernetics.
And Finley looks at you. Ah, my boy, you look. Are you all right?
Just look down at his burnt uniform. It is just superficial.
Okay. What happened?
Lieutenant Isha is no longer with us.
That's very ominous. As she left the ship.
An incident occurred, and due to her choosing, Lieutenant Isha self-immolated. I attempted to put her out.
That. Wow. That's very exciting. Is she okay?
No.
And I imagine you are here to run a diagnostic on yourself?
Yes, the captain's requested I go into maintenance.
And Finley he gets up from his desk and he walks over to you, Montgomery. And he says, has anyone ever locked you out of a room?
Rooms are defined as a specialized area of work.
And as he says this, as Dr. Finley says this to Montgomery, what happens is he becomes very, very rigid, very not lifelike. Like he's frozen into some sort of diagnostic mode. Montgomery, your eyes just lock forward very plainly. You stop responding, like you stop blinking. And your hands go to your side. And Finley continues, do you like to connect things? Or do you like to connect to things?
Connections are formed through contact.
Did you buy a present for the person you love?
Love is an expression of attachment.
Do you feel that there's a part of you that's missing?
What is missing?
And Finley looks very surprised. Oh dear, this will not do. And he walks over to Margaret and he picks her up and he walks back to you and he presses a part of Margaret's back and a panel actually pops up and he removes a tool from a hidden compartment. And Margaret just stops moving. Like she also is apparently robotic herself. And he pulls out a tool and he starts scanning you, Montgomery. And as he does that, he pushes a button on another console nearby. And he says, continue communication. Dr. Maddox, this is Dr. Finley. I hope this message finds you well. I am not sure when you will receive this, as we have been locked off from communication for quite some time. Continued on my mission to observe Ensign Montgomery. He has so far performed his duties very admirably, although I am quite concerned about the defect in his neural matrix that you mentioned. Especially over his last exam, his questions have not met the response I was expecting, which makes me worry about the degradation of his neural systems. It is possible that your original idea of sending him out here in order to blend in, as it were, was a good idea, especially on a hospital ship, but our current mission has put the poor android under quite a bit more stress than maybe we had anticipated. I will continue to monitor him, however, at this point, I am quite worried about his condition. Dr. Finley, out. Also, I need to find where I left my sandwich. It has run off. He hits a button and replaces the scanning tool back inside of Margaret's hidden compartment, closes it, puts her back on the floor, and she continues walking. And then Montgomery, he replaces a panel on the back of your head. He hits a button that is pretty much invisible to the eye, and you resume function, having no idea what happened and no memory at all to this time period that's passed, and actually no compulsion to understand what's just happened. Like you just resumed function, assumed everything is normal.
All right, so I think my maintenance is done.
Yep, you think you're good.
Good day, Dr. Finley.
Good day, Ensign. I hope you have a lovely day.
With everything going on, I will make the endeavor to try.
And you get a beep from the bridge. This is the captain. Ensign Montgomery, I need you on the bridge immediately, please.
Understood, sir. And I'll head on out.
And when you reach the bridge, we're going to take Tuzan off of here because you're not here. When you reach the bridge, the captain is pacing around his chair. Ensign, we just received a signal, which might be from our shuttlecraft. Wondering if you could take a look. We could use your expertise here. It doesn't sound very good. We might have to perform a rescue on them as well.
Understood. And I'm going to start scanning it with my left hand. My left hand is dedicated to this. The right hand is reconfiguring the console on my right hand side to have security feed relay information displayed on it as well.
Okay. So this is a reason science, and the ship can assist you, of course, with a sensor science. The difficulty, again, is going to be a 4. And you're trying to track down this signal. You couldn't really tell what the signal was, but it looked like a Starfleet signal coming in the general area.
Okay. Is everyone okay if I take that momentum to try and find you guys?
Yeah.
Hands down, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Who wants to roll the ship?
I can take the ship.
All right. So reason science. Rolling 3. 2. Nope. All right, no focus. Yeah. And since again, positronic brain, that's 4 successes for me, 1 from the ship.
Yeah, that's on momentum then.
Ooh.
So you have picked up the shuttle. It looks like it's very close to the Romulan warbird. Perhaps too close. And that's what you detected. It is within transporter range. It's almost within visual range, although even though it might be close, it still would just be a tiny light dot on the screen. But you have detected it there.
All right. I'm going to use the shuttle bay's transporters to beam the shuttle back completely.
Okay.
Right it into the shuttle bay.
Okay. That will be a roll, of course. That sounds like an engineering daring to me, beaming up an entire shuttle.
All right.
Let's maybe do probably difficulty 3. I'm going to spend some threat here. Make it a difficulty 4.
Okay.
You got a
Everyone okay with-
determination you can pop here?
Well, I'm using the ship, so I can re-roll a 0 with technical expertise, so yeah. And the ship
If
gets
you
to help with
actually
this.
go down to the transporter room to do this, it also knocks down a difficulty.
Oh yeah.
does.
I'll head on down. Head down to one of the transporter control rooms for the shuttle bay. I'll head to the shuttle bay itself and do it there.
I was going to say, Montgomery's so boss, he's just going to do it from the bridge. He's not worried.
Nah, if it was just a shuttle and no life aboard, sure. So difficulty 3 now, because
3.
shuttle bay.
Are you going to beam the inhabitants on board, or are you still just trying to beam the entire shuttle?
I'm beaming the whole entire shuttle, because it's a good shuttle. Might as well keep it right.
Yeah, it's a good shuttle. Well, you think it's a good shuttle. The people on it probably don't think so currently.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
How about this? Make it interesting. Did I get readings of its life support while I scanned it?
You can give me one of those momentum.
Actually, no. I'm a science officer.
Oh.
Operations.
How about this? I will let one of the crew of the shuttle tell you the condition of the shuttle.
You just hear 3 words from 8 of 13. It's not good.
Out of air would have been great too, but sure, it's not good. That tells me everything. So I guess that's my free question is, how's the shuttle? It's not good. Okay. Under that assumption, I'm going to also do a simultaneous beam in of oxygen for them, just in case. If that's...
That will increase the difficulty by 1, so back up to a 4.
Back up to 4. Okay.
And I'm going to give a complication here.
Oh, what's the complication?
In case you fail, something will happen.
Okay. You guys okay with a momentum for an extra dice?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have determination, I'd pop it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. The ship's helping with this too, and I can reroll. Yeah.
If we die, it's your fault.
Technical expertise. Technical expertise. Okay. Putting a lot of faith in this. Don't have any focuses for this either. Okay.
Want me to get the ship?
Yeah, you want to get the ship. Yeah. Okay. I can re-roll that to 0.
I'll
What's
wait
the ship
until we
doing?
see the ship in case it's a complication.
What's
Yeah.
the ship? Sensors and science? Sensors.
Since it's engineering, I think, since we're doing a transporter task.
I like sensor science better.
Yeah.
Come on, crit. Crit success. I believe. Yes!
Hey.
Very nice.
I am one with the computer. I am the Messiah.
You willed it. I rolled it.
He is Cyber Jesus. It's fine.
So exactly 4 successes. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
So Montgomery, you manipulate the controls. You've beamed in a healthy envelope of oxygen from the ship on board the shuttle, and your readings are all telling you that the entire shuttle has been transported into the main shuttle bay.
I will very nonchalantly walk into the shuttle bay to see how everyone's doing. Walking up to the shuttle with a shuttle personnel, getting everything looked at. Cracking open the hatch. Cracking open a cold one with the boys inside.
As soon as the hatch opens, 8 of 13 will be standing at the hatch of the shuttle. We need to get Dr. McGowan to an emergency room immediately. Who's supposed to be chief of security, Ensign?
Currently me.
Ensign, you notice, or Montgomery, you noticed that there is a Vulcan here that was not there before. This shuttle has grown a Vulcan.
If I remember correctly, the roster included a Cation, not a Vulcan.
She's a friend. I'm going to make this brief because considering the Warbird, we have a bigger problem on our hands. Lieutenant Igni isn't with us anymore.
You said you would keep this brief and quick. I need a quick explanation.
Okay, so we made 2 different drugs in order to try and save this, for lack of a better way of putting it, insectoid race that was being tortured to an extent. And let's just say that the lieutenant sacrificed himself to save one of them.
Understood. Very well. All 3 of you will need to go to sickbay to be cleared. After all, you were on a alien surface.
Of course.
I'm going to tap my comm badge. Montgomery to sickbay.
Sick bay here.
I need an emergency medical team down in Shuttle Bay 1. Dr. McGowan is injured.
Understood. We'll have someone right away. We are a bit overstaffed at the moment. Is there any way you could move her to one of the sick bays yourself?
Negative. Her condition is critical.
Understood. We'll send someone over immediately.
And he's going to look to Talise and your identification, please.
I am Major Talise of the Vulcan High Command.
Very well. You will also have to go to sickbay for a brief analysis to make sure that you did not bring aboard any pathogens or viral infections.
That is only logical.
Out of character ELH, in the Vulcan military, or whatever you want to call it, what would Major be equivalent to in Starfleet?
If I did my research properly, it's a lieutenant to lieutenant commander.
Gotcha. Okay. Just curious.
8, I believe you know the way to sickbay.
That I do. Ensign, Major, if you'll follow me.
I just sort of fall in line.
Montgomery's going to go back to the bridge.
And we're going to catch up with you two, Zon. You said that you were headed to see Dr. Bateman. So catching up a little bit from last time, I believe Dr. Bateman, or at least she's going to be now, have been testing Linares since we found out Linares was not exactly Bajoran. She's been running tests just to make sure that he is everything that he says he is. But as you walk on the door, Tuzan, you notice that Danik, the security chief, is still there. He's still watching Linares. Linares is still in the bed, and Bateman is running her tests. And she looks up as you enter. Doctor, it sounds like we've got a lot to do here.
Indeed, we do. Came down to give you a little bit of information of the situation we're about to unfold.
Very well. Would you like my report here on, well, Mr. Linares?
Sure thing. What do you have to report?
Well, for all intents and purposes, it is exactly what it says it is. It is a Bajoran. I do see some of the markers that were received from the records that we have from Voyager that they might be a Silverblood, but the thing about the Silverblood is they're able to replicate their origin tissue exactly. So it's hard to say. I guess we'll take it at its word that it is a Silverblood, but medically I don't have much evidence to support that.
As she says that, he'll just kind of, make at least one of his hands semi-mercurial, like the Silverbloods are.
Well, then you did that. Okay, well, there you go. There's our medical evidence, I suppose.
Works for me. Well, specialist, it's your lucky day because due to our circumstances that are unfolding, we need all hands on you.
With all due respect, Commander, I'm not sure I deserve to help, but that ends up being an order. I'll help.
Don't call it necessarily an order, but it is a very strong request because we are about to pretty much go on DEFCON 5, to use an old Earth term. We have a Romulan ship that just uncloaked in front of the ship. It has sustained heavy damage and has received heavy casualties. Preliminary reports that they've sent over list it somewhere between 800 and 900.
I see. If I were to go, remind me out of character, what rank is Danik?
That's a good question. I think Danik, we'll just call him an ensign. He
If
might
I
have
were
just been
to-
demoted, but that's fine.
Sure. If I were to leave to go over there, I assume you would have to come with me, Ensign, looking over to Danik.
Well, I suppose I should. Lieutenant Ish's orders were to follow you. And we're still keeping an eye on you. I think I'm still following Lieutenant Ish's orders.
I see. Have any of us here found out about what happened to Isha yet?
Nope, I was just about to inform you.
Okay, then go on ahead.
I'll just turn to Danik. Lieutenant Isha, unfortunately, is no longer with. In the meantime, and so Montgomery's security appoint a new chief of security. Yes, that's not exactly the way I want to inform you all or the information I wanted to tell you, but it is what it is.
And Linares looks kind of, this is the first time you see him even remotely sad when you've been serving with him on the ship. And he kind of grimly looks over to the ensign. I suppose we should follow her last order and have you come with me.
I would agree. The captain did say you're welcome to return to duty if you see fit. Like I said, we do need all hands on deck with supervision, but everything of your story is checked out, and based on your merits thus far, we're willing to extend the olive branch, I guess is a good way of putting it, and putting some faith in you.
Well, if you need me that badly. I assume, is the force field around this biobed down or is it still up?
Tuzan, I'll let you tell me.
It's probably still up prior to now, but I'm going to give Danik the order to drop the force field.
He hits a few buttons and the force field disappears.
And he'll sort of just slowly get up from the biobed. Well, shall we, Ensign?
And Danik turns to you, Tuzan. I don't. So you said I'm reporting to Ensign Montgomery. Frankly, Commander, between you and me, if I have any say in the matter, if we're going to be taking Romulans aboard, I'd much rather. But I think my time is more or better spent watching Romulans than the specialist here.
Well, here's the second part of this, and this is where I am going to agree with you, although not necessarily looking after the Romulans. The Romulan warbird has sustained heavy disruptor damage and heavy casualties. They're fresh damage within the last 2 hours, according to the scans that Ensign Montgomery conducted when we were on the bridge, meaning we could have a firefight coming here very soon. We are going to start evacuations order, and I turned to Dr. Bateman. We're going to start evacuating the critically injured here to start treatment. I'm going to go over in a Weiler class with Dr. Delix in a medical team as well as an engineering team and try to take care of the less injured over there so we can start repairs on the warbird. So if we have a firefight coming, which if this damage is that fresh, then we have a firefight coming. We're going to try to get the warbird up operational as best as possible.
And Bateman says, understood, sir. And she races off to her office to get a medical kit and probably more supplies that she has on hand for this sort of thing. And Danik looks even more stunned. Okay, so they've sustained damage and we should expect a fight. I think that even further reinforces my point that I probably have many more better things to do than follow the specialist around. You're not going to give us any trouble, are you, specialist? And he says that with his arms crossed. He's quite an intimidating figure, a very tall, muscular Bill Orion when he says this.
I have no plans to give you any, no.
I've worked with the specialist long enough, I'll take him at his word. But I agree with you, Danik. Start assembling security teams, have them placed. If we have a firefight and we start taking, or if we are boarded, we're going to need security teams scattered throughout the ship. Coordinate with Ensign Montgomery, who is, like I said, acting chief.
I will do that, Commander. I should remind you, though, that this is a medical ship. Our security staff is at a minimum, and that's being generous. Before you count the loss of Lieutenant Isha, if we're boarded, I'd say I'd be very concerned. Let's put it like that.
I would tend to, but let's take every precaution we can to make it that we have a very small loss of life today.
Understood. And he goes to head outside of the doors and off to do something security
related.
Security stuff.
I have something in mind to help if we do get boarded. Basically, non-critical sections of the ship are to be left avoided. If boarding does happen, there are designated paths to take. And once people have passed these checkpoints, the grav plating is going to be set to increase gravity to 4 to 5 times.
I like the idea of turning off gravity too.
Well, turning off implies that they can still float about and move. 5 times Earth gravity, they ain't moving. They will barely be breathing.
That's true.
And since it's a hospital ship designed to treat many species, I'm sure the deck plating is set up in such a way to accommodate for such species having to move around from section to section.
I think that could work. Tuzon, your communicator at this point beeps, and it's the captain.
This is Tuzon.
Commander, we've got a transmission from the commander of the Romulan vessel. Apparently, she is sending us beam-in coordinates. So I believe they've restored at least a portion of their communications, but if you want to send an away team over there, I don't think you'll need to take a shuttle unless you absolutely want to. She's given us away, or at least coordinates to beam over that appear to be safe.
Understood. I would like to at least have a shuttle on standby should the beam-in location no longer be stable, but I agree we can go ahead and start sending a team over there.
Very good, Commander. So at this point, Tuzon, would you be going on an away team mission over to the Romulan ship, or would you want to coordinate on the ship? So what would your job be here?
I want to go on an away mission.
Sounds good. Who are you going to take with you?
For sure, Dr. Daleks as like a second doctor to help with triage. Who else wants to come?
Monty.
But Monty's coordinating all of the different stuff here.
Actually, no. I'll take Ensign Monday.
Who is Ensign Monday?
Who is Ensign Monday? A man of mystery and intrigue. We will see.
Let me take a look at Ensign Monday before you activate to see if I need to add the escalation flag that I added for Oliver Persier. No, Ensign Monday looks okay. And its art is not so bad. Okay.
You should just open up Oliver Purser just so this people can when they're watching this, they can see the magnificence of Oliver.
For anyone who ever watches this, I just want you to know the crew just, I don't know, a moment of madness. I was away, I came back to my desk, and all of a sudden there's this monstrosity waiting for us. I can't explain it. I don't know what happened.
Perfect.
You're welcome,
perfect.
GM Josh. You're welcome.
It's the most perfect support character.
Okay, so before we get to too many cat puns, I'm taking Linares.
All right.
Okay.
The copy, not the real one.
Okay.
And I will take Mr. Loggins.
Perfect.
Let me get my throat ready for this.
So it's also important for you guys to tell me what you individually are taking. I will make you do a roll, Tuzon, that will be the advantage you would get or not from having your medical staff on hand. But what would you guys take over to the Romulan ship?
Power cells.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd probably take basic med kits, and if we need to put some people in like medical comas if the injuries are very grave, Linares is going to take some of the stuff he was using to keep the real Linares in a medical coma.
So you just got this on hand naturally. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had a guy in a coma for 30 years, so I figured I'd have at least some on hand.
You
Okay.
have coma pudding pop. That's what you got.
Yeah.
I'm taking Medikit. I also think transport enhancers would not be a bad thing to take.
I was
Okay.
actually going to say that. Monday's going to take transport enhancers, a big old toolkit. Yeah, just of a sort of different things, typically two-handed stuff if he has to do some stuff, and an engineering tricorder as well. His transporter enhancers, though, they're going to be hooked up to the fabrication unit we have on the ship that we can do repairs with.
Okay.
So they get beamed out to him directly.
I believe the only thing with transport enhancers, I think they do have an opportunity cost.
Yeah, they do cost 1.
Get an extra threat there.
Bringing me ever closer and closer to Borg Cube levels of threat here.
It's okay. We'll just chuck Igni at them.
Poor Igni. Although
So
I
I won't-
bet,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if the stone would recognize a Borg as organic or not.
Stuff some Borg drones in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't make you guys do a roll because you have the coordinates from the Romulan vessel. So this is a pretty smooth beam out. But as you materialize, you're actually materializing what looks like a large cargo bay. It's the location that you've been given. Now, I know this is the same map that I've used before for the Hope's cargo bay, but it's not. It's a Romulan cargo bay. So as you materialize, maybe it's green lighting, low budget here. But what you immediately notice amongst the cargo bay there are a few containers here and there, but mostly there are rows and rows of wounded crew members, and you see a mix of Romulans and Remans. And what's also interesting is this green lighting, because Romulan ship, is set to be very low, obviously because this ship has a pretty significant complement of Remans. But as you materialize, a female Romulan, she approaches you and she looks very serious. And she says, "Hello, I'm Commander Varen." Very matter of fact.
I extend a hand. Commander Dr. Tuzan. I'm the first officer of the Hope.
Oh, yes. Thank you for coming. We have lots of injured here. You will have lots to do.
I've brought with me our here, Ensign Monday, and Loggins here, as well as a complement, another doctor, and a complement of medical staff. We'd like to set up transport enhancers to transport the more critically injured that we can't necessarily attend to the wound, transport back to the Hope, while both myself and Dr. Daleks will take care of those that have non-life-threatening injuries so that we can return them to duty to assist in the repairs of your ship.
She looks at Monday and looks a little surprised. A Gorn officer. Quite interesting. You said you're Commander Tuzan, is that correct?
That is correct.
Very good. I like to remember names. Of course, you may do as you will. I have many injured. We're just in a very, very one-sided battle, but hopefully you can get us back on our feet.
Well, and unfortunately, the Hope display of weapons that if your friends that decided to do this to you decide that they were going to follow you, we're going to need an operational warbird. So let's get busy and try to get as much people as we can patched up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commander. Perhaps my meaning was not clear. By one-sided, I mean one-sided for the Klingons. Those two Negvar vessels which have been pursuing you, well, they're dust.
Oh, that's good to know then. Tend to the wounded.
It is the mission of this ship and will be the mission of the ship so long as she is still able to function to destroy any Klingon vessel in Romulan territory.
Understood.
And she says, I'll leave you to it. Do you perhaps have an engineer here?
Ensign Monday. He's one of the best engineers we got.
I think
His
And
tongue,
your actual chief engineer.
his tongue comes out and
And
slaps him on
Loggins.
the eye and licks himself, and then
Loggins is also here for engineering.
Very good. Loggins. Sounds like a very powerful name. I believe my chief engineer was killed in our attack, and the engineering staff are making efforts to restore power to our main reactor. They could certainly use some assistance.
Very well, I will head there immediately.
And she looks around. You, and she points to one of the other Romulans. You escort this one to main engineering, and if you are playing with the boys, I promise it will come back to me. And the Romulan shakes his head. Yes, sir.
Bundy is going to pull out his tricorder and just start scanning the ship.
So Tuzan, at this point, I would like you to make a roll for me that's going to be how effective your medical staff is in assisting you. Because if you fail this roll, that means they're just not going to give you an advantage. They're just background that serves no purpose. So I think it's probably going to be a command, probably a command presence, difficulty of 2.
You have to take the strong one away.
Actually, let's do difficulty of 3 because I have all of this threat.
Thanks. Would my quick study talent come into play when attempting tasks that will involve an unfamiliar medical procedure or an unfamiliar species? Ignore difficulty increase.
I don't think so because you're not treating anyone yet. You're trying to coordinate them to do their work. When you actually, if you start treating the Romulans or the Remans, yeah, this will come into play. But at this point, this is you directing your team.
And of course, I have no focuses.
And if you fail, they'll still do stuff. They just won't give you an advantage.
I feel like popping my determination.
Okay.
Quick on my feet as a value.
I think everyone has a purpose. Might be a better one for what I think you're trying to do here.
Alrighty. So I'll do that for the auto crick.
That is exactly enough. Your medical staff jump to attention and start going around to look at the various patients. So they're effectively going to give you an advantage on any medical task for you or Linares. They'll lower the difficulty by 1.
We also got into momentum because I burned my determination. So we had 2 autos. That was a 4. You said difficulty 3.
I said 4. I jumped it up to 3, from 3 to 4 with threat.
Oh,
So you made it.
okay. Sounds good. All right, let's start care of the wounded.
But Varen steps out of your way, and you notice that none of these Romulans have really been treated at all. They're really just laying on the floor.
Monday's gonna look at Varen as she steps towards him and just grin.
Do you have a problem?
Do you have a mate?
Do I? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. She says, I am not interested in a Gorn. Surely there are more things for you to be working on than your libido at this point.
I can multitask. Show me the damage.
I believe you could follow your chief to our engine room.
You'll follow Loggins?
Sorry, I was not prepared for Monday. But now I'm going to be asking Monday lots of questions.
Do it. My throat is ready.
Oh my. Oh my.
So I'm going to move
Oh my.
logins and Monday off. So Tuzan and Linares, like I said before, it's an interesting mix of Romulans and Remans on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go through and scan and see who are the most critical?
You can. I believe that would constitute a triage test. And pulling them up, that's a medicine reason. Let's do a difficulty of 2. It's pretty simple. And that's our, let's call it difficulty 1 because you have an advantage from your team. So difficulty of 1.
I don't know that I have a focus that would apply. All right.
And I would say, Linares, if you'd like to, you could assist. Same thing, medicine reason.
You said this was like a triage task,
Yeah.
basically.
Yep, just going to check these guys out and see what's wrong with them.
Xenobiology as a focus.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, 2 momentum.
So to tell you the injuries that you're looking at, they are a mixture. Like this guy has just a broken leg, not very severe. Most of them have plasma burns of one sort or another. Here is definitely the most injured. He looks like he has sustained heavy radiation damage to his internal organs. He's also sustained the heavier plasma burns from the rest of them. He looks like he's going to need some surgery of some kind.
I look to Linares. Let's get him back to the coordinates and transport him back for Bateman's team.
I agree. I feel like Linares kind of looks to Tuzon's like, do you think we should at least try and stabilize him first?
We can try. I don't know if we can do much here with what the tools that we have here, but we can certainly try to stabilize him.
And I'm going to spend some complication or some threat for a complication. As you guys are talking about stabilizing him, your tricorders beep immediately and let you know that he has entered into critical condition.
Linares is running over and at least he's going to start using some of his whatever anesthetics he would have in his med kit to just sort of at least try and stabilize some of his life signs.
And you're also very aware as you guys are doing this that Varen is close by watching you silently. So I take it you want to try to stabilize him. Tuzon, are you also going to help Linares or just leave Linares to handle this one?
I'll come over and try to help.
So I'll let you guys decide who would do which part, but it's going to be a daring medicine difficulty of 2.
I'm shooting for 15.
I'm also shooting for 15, but I'm going to say since Linares got there first, he'd probably take the lead on this.
Go for it.
Let's see here. I feel like we're going to need a lot of momentum, so I'm going to pop my determination here. With the value of everyone deserves a chance to live.
That sounds good.
Anesthetics is a focus here?
Sure.
Okay. Boop. Okay. So that's 4 successes.
Would my surgery focus come into play?
I think so, yeah. So 3 momentum.
Okay, so here's what I would like to do upon those successes. For this scene, since we're sending him back for surgery to make it a little easier, I'm going to activate my talent of practice makes perfect. So once per scene, whenever this character succeeds at a medicine task relating to the treatment of a patient, reduce the difficulty of the next medicine task relating to that patient by 1.
Very good. So the next person that tries to actually put this guy back together is going to have an easier time.
Yep.
And with that, Linares or Tuzon, are you going to follow him as he transports back to the Hope, or do you want to stay in the cargo bay?
I'm going to stay here and try to triage, but also keep an eye on Varen. Something doesn't seem right.
And sort of noticing maybe Tuzon's cautious attitude about it, he is also going to stay, but he's going to pop his comm badge off and put it onto the Riemann individual to make transporting a little easier.
Okay. And after you do that, the transporter hums and the Riemann disappears, transported to one of the critical bays on the Hope.
All right, specialist, let's get to work here.
All right.
And after that, we're actually going to transition to the Romulan engine room. So Loggins and Monday, you follow the Romulan as he leads you to their engine core. So the thing about the engine core is Romulan vessels use a quantum singularity, not a normal matter-antimatter reactor. The interesting part about this room is the massive singularity being contained by force fields here in the center of the room. It's a huge complex. Most of the technology around it is keeping a pretty safe distance. And past the force field that's containing the quantum singularity, you just see nothing, which does reinforce the idea that the thing powering this vessel is a black hole. Seems very unsafe, but that's how they do it here. Loggins, as you and Monday enter, you notice that engineering is mostly abandoned. Several of the consoles look to be damaged. There's some wiring and stuff blown out in certain parts of the engineering bay, and there is just one Riemann walking around engineering pretty much by himself. The lights in this room have also been dimmed, obviously to make things easier for him. But as you enter, he cautiously approaches.
I meet him halfway and I say, my name is Loggins. I'm here to help you get things stable. What can you tell me of the current situation?
My name is Mirek. The situation is that we are losing power from our core. Chief engineer was killed in our attack against the Klingons.
Well, nothing lasts forever. Let's take a look.
To give me an engineering reason difficulty 3, Monday you can assist, or you can work on another task. Same engineering reason if you'd like to assist.
Survey says, one success, not a whole lot. A whole lot of nothing.
Well, perhaps because it's technology that you guys are very unfamiliar with. You're not really sure what is going on with the core. But Loggins, your attention is drawn to an unusual device to the side of the core that you have never ever seen before. This is a lot of technology that you don't really encounter very much, but a quantum singularity drive, you've heard about it, but this device next to it, you've never heard of.
I point at the device and I say, heart to heart here, what can you tell me about this device?
He looks at you and he cocks his head to the side. Why are you interested in it?
Well, I don't know what it does, and if I don't know what it does, I can't help repair what's going on here.
And he looks at you, Monday. I have never seen a Gorn before.
Just blink at him, one eyelid after the other.
Are you engineers on your vessel?
We are, yes.
I myself am not an engineer, but I have joined this vessel's crew. I have learned many things about how these systems function. So are you able to help us or not?
I think you've avoided the question. What do you know of that device?
Loggins, why don't you give me a command presence difficulty 2? And this is, are you winning this guy over or not?
I'm just going to scan the device.
Survey says, whole lot of nothing.
Okay, you haven't won him over. Monday, give me engineering reason difficulty 1.
And boop. Ooh.
All right, so right away, of course, you now have 3 momentum that you could ask more questions on. This looks like some kind of tachyon infusion device. So a device that will pass tachyons into something.
If I remember correctly, tachyons, aren't they used for temporal shenanigans?
Yup.
Among other things, yep.
In my tricorder readings of this device, and with the extra momentum, because I think what I got, we're at 5 before, so I got 2 floating.
Yeah, you have 2
You
you
have
need to
one.
spend.
Oh yeah.
So, has this device been activated recently?
It looks like it's tied into the quantum singularity core, and it does look like it has been active fairly recently. It's hard to say exactly when, but it is yeah, it's functional for sure. It's not active now, but it could work.
Okay. The second question is, can I discern how to safely disconnect it from the core?
Yeah, you probably want to shut the core down to be absolutely safe to remove it that way.
That's the thing about a quantum core, it doesn't shut down once it's on.
This is true.
Hmm. Just gonna poke it with his long, lanky finger. Tachyon emitter.
And Marak says, "You should not mess with that device. It is fully functional. The problem we have is with the core."
Tachyons unpredictable. Tachyon interfere with repair.
And Marak again looks at you, Loggins. "If you are unable to assist with repairing the core, you should return to your ship."
No, I think we can help you. It's just that if we run into any more situations like this, and I motioned at the device, that you seemingly don't want to tell us about, I mean, there's only so much I can do. The more you tell us, the better we can repair your ship.
Loggins, taking the information that you've gotten from Monday, could you give me an engineering, maybe engineering insight, difficulty 2?
Would I get warp core mechanics on this one?
I think so.
Okay, I'll spend a momentum for a third die. Wow, Loggins, really? Apparently
Loggins is
Loggins is
not
just not having
doing
a good
it.
day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Loggins, you don't really have much more to contribute to that.
I pull out a hyperspanner and I say, well, I guess I shouldn't fight it anymore. I've forgotten what I started fighting for. And I go perform some percussive maintenance.
So what do you what do you attack with your spanner?
I think my first target is going to be whatever console is providing a readout or a control over the core. My thinking being that if I'm able to at least get tactile response, I might be able to get better information than what we're getting on a tricorder.
So as you hit one of the consoles, a display activates. It looks like this console might have been damaged, but all it needed was a good hit. If you give me momentum, I'll give you a piece of information about the core.
Yeah, you can have the momentum.
So the problem with a core looks like, so we don't know exactly how quantum singularities work, at least conceptually, but I'm assuming that there's some sort of containment field around this black hole to keep it from, killing everything, and that something out of this system creates power, and there's an efficiency to this system. Well, this efficiency has started to break down at least a little bit over time. It doesn't look like the ship has had the maintenance that it should have, or may have received more damage over time. But anyway, there's a bleed off between the amount of energy the singularity is producing and the amount of energy the system is pulling from it, which is why the power has been reduced.
All right, well, Mirak, here's your problem. You're bleeding power where you shouldn't be. And all we really need to do is just reestablish proper containment.
Very well. Do you know how to perform this procedure safely?
Yes.
It is important that the device is not damaged. He's pointing at the tachyon thing.
Monday just stares at him. Again, one eye blinks and then the other follows.
Yeah, Loggins is more or less just going to say, I mean, I've done similar procedures on a warp core. This would be my second or third time doing it to a singularity core.
Very well. I am not familiar with the procedure myself, so I think the only thing to do is to trust you, although I have reservations. If you damage the device, the commander will be most unhappy.
Out of character, I've guessed what this device is, but Loggins has no idea in character. So, yeah, I think Loggins is just going to do his damnedest to get a little bit of containment back on the core.
So I think this will be an engineering control, a difficulty of 3, and Monday you may assist with the same.
So we're trying to reestablish the structural integrity of the field.
I mean, more or less, if I understand the situation, it's one of those things where the if this were a warp core, the magnetic fields that sort of control the plasma that is produced from dilithium and antimatter and matter reacting, et cetera, et cetera. Here it's a singularity core. I imagine they have to use, I mean, they probably don't use magnets like they do on a Starfleet vessel, but they have some sort of system that channels energy away from the singularity.
There's a question of what energy is the singularity creating that they can harness. Whatever that is, we're just hand waving it and saying this system that should draw this energy is inefficient. Somehow it's lost that ability to draw as much power as it could.
I mean, just off the top of my head, don't black holes produce X-rays or something?
I mean, amongst other things, but enough to power a ship. Maybe. They produce stuff.
Yeah, they produce stuff. So let's get the stuff proper contained again. Yeah. We're at 4 momentum right now, so I will give you 1 more for a third die. And survey says I have actually rolled some successes on logins for once.
Control engineering.
I believe that's a
That's
difficulty
15.
3, so everything Monday rolls will go into momentum.
And I don't
Mm,
get focuses into this, right? Structural
You-
structural knowledge and force fields.
Yes, actually. Force field would apply.
I did say I brought over a big old toolbox. So either a magnetic probe is being used or a hyperspanner.
How about this? If you roll at least 1 success, I'll give you and obtain information for free.
All right. Yeah.
E.
So ask me your questions. And give yourself a momentum because that was 1 more than you needed.
Yeah, I think we're back at 4. I mean, I know what I want to ask.
I'm open to suggestions.
So I want to know what exactly is the tachyon device's purpose? Like, now that we're interfacing with the core, is it siphoning extra energy away? Is it adding energy to the system? You know, what is the correlation between the device and the core?
I'm good with that. So yeah, I guess like what's the purpose? Like what can it do, or what has it been used for?
So what this thing would do in concert with the core, this tachyon device, is it would create a localized wormhole connecting 2 points. And the size of this device would probably create a wormhole that would accommodate something about the size of a briefcase.
Oh.
I turn to Mirak and I say, I think we've established containment again, but this thing here, and I pointed at the device, you haven't been using it to, oh, I don't know, put wormholes on a Klingon vessel, then beam a torpedo through. detonate it before their shields can even rise, that sort of thing.
I am not privy to the purpose of the device. We have been using it for quite some time, and it has been most effective to the commander's plans.
I mean, out of character, I don't think Loggins buys it, but he doesn't know enough to interrogate this man. So he simply says, "Very well. I can tell that you obviously have secrets on this vessel, but I think we've done what we can here. Show me to your next most crucial area, and we'll get that working too."
Of course, the next system that has been failing is our sanitation system. It has been backed up for some time.
Well, ain't
Good
that
luck,
some shit?
Loggins. Monday's just gonna leave.
Nice. Just leave Loggins to deal with the shit. Thanks.
It seems like the perfect time to transition back to Zahn and Linares, though. So as time has progressed, the medical teams have been able to triage most of the people on board. And, you've decided, or at least the teams have decided, to send many of the Romulans to the Hope. The wounds are mostly like plasma burns and stuff of that nature.
I just turned to Linares. Well, looks like we've gotten most of the stuff under control around here.
That it seems we have. Varen, was it?
Yes,
Commander?
you may address me as Commander Varen.
My apologies. Are there any other vital areas of the ship where there are people like that Riemann that have been injured?
Not to my knowledge, I believe we have sent all the information of where our injured are to your vessel.
Very well. Do you mind if we just take a quick sweep through everything, make that past for our own sanity?
No.
No, you don't mind, or no, we are not allowed?
No, you are not allowed. While we appreciate your help, there are certainly areas of this ship that are still vital to the safety of the Romulan Empire.
Or the underground of the Romulan Empire at the moment?
Whatever you'd like to call it, Commander. It is the Romulan Empire, and in fact, you are in Romulan territory.
You have no disagreements with me there. We are on our way to a Romulan outpost to offer assistance there.
And she raises an eyebrow. Indeed.
As she raises that eyebrow, I want to try and get a read on her and see if that was an actual eyebrow raise of understanding, or one of she's shocked that we're going there.
Give me a command insight difficulty of 3.
Okay. Insight command. I'll take.
Do you have, I'm going to check, but do you have any focuses on reading people, like any kind of psychiatry or anything like that? Counsel. You have counseling. Counseling, I'll let you use your medicine instead of command.
Ooh, okay. So I'm shooting for a good old solid 16 there. I feel confident in just using 3, but I'm gonna be kind of selfish and try to crit fish. I'll take 3 momentum to buy 2 extra dice. And we shall see how this goes. Oh boy. Wow.
At least it wasn't a punch.
Yeah, I mean, This is interesting.
You don't have bold medicine, do you? Or you don't have cautious medicine, do you?
I do not. Let me hold on. Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything that'll. I don't have a value I can really challenge to get my determination back. So no.
And what happens is, as you're trying to read her, she has perhaps gleaned something from you, Linaris, and she says, "You are Linaris Furel, the killer of so many Cardassians. It is an honor to have you on my ship."
I just raised my eyebrow.
As odd as this may sound, I'm not that Linaris Farrell. And I mean, hell, since everybody on the Hope knows, Tuzon knows, he'll just sort of make one of his fingers become mercurial for a second.
And for the first time, her mask kind of drops and she does genuinely look surprised. And she says, "My mistake. I was expecting someone else."
I apologize, and if I may ask, the eyebrow raise seemed a little odd at saying we're going to that outpost, but I assume I can let it slide.
Well, the transformation of your hand was also quite a surprise for me. It's been a surprising day for everyone.
That it has. It's been a very, very long day.
And she has a pad and she hands it to you, Tuzon. Your captain requested that I give a list of supplies that we could use. Of course, I don't expect you to replenish everything, but this is a list of things that we could certainly use and are short on.
Understood. I will go and deliver it to him personally, see what we can arrange to get you guys on your way.
It's a long list. There's stuff like food. There's stuff like energy cells for probably weapons, things like that. There's medical supplies like retrovirus vaccines and things like that on the list.
I just kind of go through the list. We'll see. We're very limited ourselves, unfortunately, when it comes to supplies. Some of the medical supplies will be able to give you. I'll check with hydroponics. We'll be able to give you some of the food. When it comes to like the power cells, we're kind of skating by at the moment until we can find a more permanent place to either trade or have time to make our own.
Very well. The captain has also invited me aboard your ship for, he calls it dinner, I believe is an Earth meal.
Traditionally, it's the last meal of the day.
Interesting. We've been on emergency rations on this ship for quite some time. We typically have one meal. It'll be quite. I'll look forward to having a second today.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing you then.
Very good. And she starts to walk off.
As soon as she's out of earshot, I just kind of lean over to Linaris. She seem like she's hiding something to you?
I had a hard time reading her, but if you had to ask me for my gut instinct, I would say yes.
Same. I'm wondering if the good ensign back on the Hope has his idea in the right spot of we might need to be on the lookout for some friends.
Commander, don't we have a Romulan on our vessel?
We do.
And if memory serves out of character, is he the only Romulan on the ship?
He is.
Well, other than right now, because we have a whole bunch of people who are currently in our med bay.
Well,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that.
excluding those people, but
He is the only Romulan crew member.
And remind me, his name was Caper, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Compare.
This seems almost
Too coincidental.
coincidental. Yeah. Well, if she wants us to leave, I assume we should go back to the Hope.
Should we wait for our lovely engineers?
Oh, we probably should.
I tap my
And
comm
I
badge.
go to like try and communicate with them. I'm like, oh yeah, I gave it to that Riemann. Never mind.
I just laugh and tap my comm badge. This is Tuzon calling logins and Monday. What is your status?
Monday walks into the cargo bay, actually. And he just looks at you, one eye blinking, followed by the other.
Hello.
First officer.
I hope the repairs are going well.
Shitter's clogged.
I take it that logins is currently trying to unclog that problem.
Yeah, the log, working on the log.
Struggling to keep a straight face. He goes, okay. Well, should we wait for him or should we return to the Hope?
Return good.
All right. I will open a communication to logins. Logins, this is Tuzon. Do you read?
I'm neck deep in shit here, sir. What can I do for you?
That's an image I wasn't expecting today. Do you need any assistance or are we clear to head back?
I think I can handle this. It's just I'm gonna need a sonic shower when I get home.
Make sure that it's hot and running when you get there.
Thank you. I'll be here.
All right. Tuzon out.
Monday is going to walk up to her.
You can be third wife.
And he's going to walk back.
And you notice that Varen is carrying a weapon. It's a disruptor pistol. And as you walk off, when you said that, as you kind of crept up behind her, her hand did go to her pistol and she turns as you walk away and she rolls her eyes.
Monday, you just about got shot.
How do you think I met my first wife?
That I don't even want to know.
My second wife patched me up.
Okay, let's get back to the ship.
Tuzon to the Hope, 3 to beam out.
All right. And unless anyone wanted to particularly do something else on the ship, I'm going to fast forward us to the dinner with Varen.
I sent
that
you a message.
I would like to meet with the captain.
Okay.
I have a couple things. When we get back to the Hope, I would like whoever's the current transporter chief to keep a consistent transporter lock on logins, because I don't trust Varen, or in this case, probably that ship at the moment.
Okay.
And he is going to send some kind of communications to Commander Tuvor. And we can get there when you want to get there.
I would definitely reiterate what Spencer just said with the chief, the transporter chief. Keep a lock on logins in the log.
Okay. So what we're going to do is transition to sick bay. While I clear the scene. So what's happened is the away team that arrived back from the shuttles, you guys were ordered to go to sickbay for an evaluation by Montgomery. And Talise, let's just say that you are being checked out by Wynn. She's giving you an exam. And she says, so Major, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So can you tell me anything about your diet? You look a little, I don't want to say malnourished, but not 3 squares a day. What's life been like on that ship?
It has not been especially pleasant, if that's what you're getting at.
Any health conditions or concerns that I should be made aware of?
None that immediately come to mind.
Very, very well. Okay. If you don't mind me asking, what was your mission on that ship? Just curious. She's trying to make small talk as she's doing an exam.
Right. Yeah, I think she would come clean. There's no real reason for her to not. She says, well, I was put in charge of contacting the supposed Romulan resistance, and my trail eventually led me to being, I suppose you could call it, being captured by the Terex. But honestly, I haven't been treated as a prisoner.
Well, that's good to hear. From what I've seen of the other Romulans, you are really in much better condition than most of them. And then the door opens and comes in Ensign Montgomery.
Doctor, Major.
Hello, Ensign. Just doing the last checkup on the Major here. She's cleared from everything I can see. Despite maybe needing a meal or two and perhaps some rest, she seems fit for whatever she'd like to do.
Understood. Could you give us some privacy for a moment?
Of course, I have a ship full of people that need some help. If you need anything, just give me a call. And she scurries away.
Major,
Edson.
can you tell me anything about the Romulan vessel?
I can tell you that I've been on it for the past few weeks.
And what individual Romulans are we dealing with? Remnants of the old Imperium or the underground movement?
The latter.
Have you come across any agents that you believe to be Tal Shiar?
Have I, GM Josh?
You haven't, but the condition of the Empire right now is such that there's not much covert going on inside the Empire because there's not much of an Empire. So if there was a person acting on behalf of the Tal Shiar, on the crew, they would have just blended in, really, because all their goals are the same, really, at this point.
All right, in that case, I say that would be negative. I was not able to suss out any would-be Tal Shiar, but that said, I will tell you the same thing I just told the lovely doctor here. I have been I wouldn't call it a prisoner. Let's call it a forced work program for the last several weeks.
And what was your work entailing?
Mostly helm, a little bit of science, a little bit of operation. Really, I covered the whole kit and caboodle.
And your reason for coming down to the planet?
I was sent to assess whether or not if this planet was suitable for a base of operations.
Do you have any knowledge of a Federation vessel operating within this sector?
I think. Wasn't that something we said was mentioned, GM Josh? I'm not seeing it in the handout.
Yeah, sorry, I may have missed that. You do know that the Terex has been following a Federation vessel. You don't know which one, and you don't know how they would know about it. But you know that you guys have been looking for a Federation ship.
Okay, then I say something along the lines of, yes, we were shadowing a Starfleet vessel. I did not know the details of said vessel or how they knew to shadow it, but it is something that we were pursuing.
What is your rank and service number within the Vulcan military?
Well, I am Major Talise, and I rattle off a service number.
Very well. Have you had any dealings or contact with the Federation before this?
I have been on missions before that involved Federation assets, yes.
Can you name any particular instances?
If I did so, well, to put it bluntly, those operations might be compromised. But I can see where your logic is leading. If you are concerned that I am some sort of shapeshifter or plant, I can assure you that I am not.
My concerns do not lie in that. I am more concerned of you being a possible double agent. Such example is Vulcan Ambassador Capel, who was really a Romulan spy.
I have no real reason to hide anything from you.
Tell me, have you ever played poker?
I understand it is a human game that involves cards.
And there is a skill of deception deployed in it. If you are who you say you are, I would like your assistance with an individual aboard this vessel. Follow me,
I would
please.
be more than happy to assist.
He'll nod and he'll turn to the door and head on out. He'll look back like, come in.
I just sort of look at the doctor.
I think she ran off.
Oh, she ran off? Okay, sorry, I must have missed that. Then yeah, I do follow.
Okay.
I'm taking her to our Vulcan buddy. Our Romulan buddy, sorry.
Okay.
And I don't say anything to her at all, because I don't think she knows what I am yet. I just look human.
I'm setting up the scene for you, Lenaris, where you were going to assemble the transmission to Tuvor.
Okay.
So I think we decided you were going to do that in your quarter. That sounds like probably the most logical place for you to do that.
Yeah.
So, Lenaris, you have, upon returning to the Hope, you've been called on in a few places to assist with the injured. So you've had a very full day of dealing with hurt and bloody Romulans and Remans, but you've stumbled into your quarters, preparing to make your transmission.
He'll just kind of he'll attempt to make this a private channel if he can, and he'll try to remind me what Tuvor's ship was called again.
His ship was actually destroyed. He was on the Hastings. That's where you guys
that's
rescued
right.
him from. Yeah, he was returned to a starbase.
In that case, since that's my last known location for him, I'll send a private communication to that starbase to try and reach him if I can.
So what happens is you try to make the connection to the starbase and the computer lets you know that it can't, but you could add your message to the queue of messages that are waiting to go out as soon as you guys have connection to a subspace relay.
Okay, then I will do that. And he kind of looks, he's probably kept that piece of the hull that Tuvor gave him above his, basically up on that shelf above his bed. And he kind of takes it and just turns it over in his hand for a second. Kind of thinks like, do I really belong on this ship? And just kind of sets it back down. And if there's any other assistance that needs to be rendered, he will do so.
Okay. But not sending a message to Tuvor at this point.
He'll add the message to the queue.
Okay.
But he'll send, if he can get it through, a like text only message that reads that he might want to talk with him about a possible transfer to whatever ship he's on and a private communication at some point.
Okay. And Montgomery, you and Talise, if you want to catch up with Capere, he's actually in one of the meeting rooms about to have dinner with the captain and Varen and Tuzan. He was invited to dinner with them. And you guys were also invited. You could show up there or go somewhere else, but that's currently Capere's location, is in this sort of eating room.
Is he by himself?
No, he's not. Currently the captain's in there. I'm going to throw Tuzan in there. And
Before the
8.
dinner, I wanted to have a meeting with the captain. Just
Oh.
kind of a deep.
You know what? That's what we'll say is Tuzan. Let me move to that scene actually, and we can work that out. So hiding Tuzan and Talise. But what's happened is people have started to congregate. Varen is on the ship in the corner, and she's actually talking to Capere. But 8, we have you also to the side, and Tuzan, I'll just have you and the captain over in the corner in a private sort of. You could talk to him privately. The current situation, though, is the room is not entirely empty of other people.
Captain, I wanted to give you a heads up of the situation that could be occurring here.
Of course, Commander. I would love to know your take on our Romulan guest.
Well, to be quite frank, Captain, I don't trust her.
Well, to be frank, Commander, many people don't trust Romulans. They tend to withhold their motives. They tend to carry many secrets. Has this one given you any reason to have suspicions?
The mannerisms of the way she was acting while we were over there, as well as talking to Monday, the device that they found in engineering. It's all a little too strange.
Well, as I was just told by my very direct operations officer, I should work on my hesitation. So following that, I'll ask you, Commander, what would you advise?
Just to be cautious, we need to make sure that when we give them supplies, make sure we don't give them anything that can be weaponized. Food, medical supplies, I don't see any problem giving we can spare, but energy cells, well, we're running low in the first place. We really can't spare any, and that could be more easily weaponized. In talking to her, sounds like they very much obliterated the 2 Klingon ships that were following us, and that's when they sustained their damage.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because I've actually been thinking about the level of assistance we can provide without breaking our orders or our position as a medical vessel. Some of these items on this list, and he pages down, antibiotics, tissue regenerators, retroviral vaccine, things of that nature, seem to be quite innocuous on their own, but weapon energy cells, that if we provided that, wouldn't we be arming them for some kind of combat?
I agree. My worry then becomes, will they take it by force?
Do you think they're capable?
I think they are a people without a homeland. They are very much desperate to take back what is theirs. They were very hostile in their way of talking about Klingons. I stayed neutral on the subject, but they are willing to do whatever it takes to take back their land.
My first thought was to err on the side of expecting the best from the Romulans, but then I reminded myself, Commander, your background and your history as a Bajoran, you know quite well what it's like to live in an occupied homeworld, much better than I would. So if your first thoughts are what someone else would do in that situation, I think I should defer to your judgment. What if we do this? We have a very limited security team. It's my understanding that Mr. Montgomery has posted the few numbers that we have in vital areas of the ship, and then also enacted a plan to weaponize the deck plating, which quite creative, I must say. What if we accelerate those plans? I can't imagine in combat we would stand much of a chance, but if we make it so someone trying to board this ship would have more difficulty, do you think that would be prudent?
I think we don't want to tip them off, but pretty much Ensign Montgomery should have his finger hovering over the button that if something were to go awry, that those plans can be implemented quickly and efficiently.
Very good, Commander. If you can work with Ensign Montgomery to come together with a plan, let's see what we can get out of our guest here, the Commander. It's very possible that she'll take the supplies that we've offered and continue on her way. And then we continue on our primary mission to Algareb 2.
I agree. Well, if you'll excuse me, then I'll go touch base with Ensign Montgomery here before dinner, just to make sure that the plan is in place should something come up during dinner.
I think at this point, I'm going to toss you Talise and Montgomery. You arrive as everyone's in the room. You walk in, you see 8 of 13 just sort of standing in the corner being a security person. And then, of course, Tuzon and Williamson at the end of the table.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, Ensign.
Montgomery has a big smile on. How's everything proceeding aboard the vessel, Doctor?
We still have some of the Romulan personnel here on the Hope who were in more serious condition, that they're being monitored for their injuries. Myself and Dr. Dalix, as well as specialists in ours, were able to do a lot of patching up while we were over there. So most of the crew are back up and, well, at least somewhat functional. They might need a day or two to recover fully, but they're out of the heat of it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. He's going to pull out the seat for Talise. Please
She
sit
just
down.
sort of gives an appreciative nod and sits down silently.
And Talise, as you sit down, Varen's head pops up as she notices you entering. Major, I was not made aware that you had returned from the planet's surface.
Yes, I arrived several hours ago. Unfortunately, I will report that the Wuhan you sent with me met a unfortunate end.
But hopefully it wasn't at an end of being eaten. Oh, it was. Ooh. Apologies. My condolences.
I'm going to look up at 8. What do you have to report on this planet? I'm now intrigued.
Hold on.
While they're talking, Monty's like tapping his hands on the table, just being a little bit obnoxious.
And she'll just sort of relay just about everything that happened with a probably more sugar-coated version of some of the breakings of the first contact protocol that happened.
Glossing over those details.
Yeah, just like probably chalk it all up to of a playing along thing.
I'll just look to 8. I see. Well, I'll look forward to a full debrief in your report.
That's a lot of rules broken right there.
Indeed. Ensign,
Yes.
can you come over here for a moment? I like motion towards the corner. I wanted to go over a few of the plans that you had sent to me.
Oh, we shouldn't talk while we have guests so close to us. We should find a more private area. Don't want to interrupt their conversations.
Always the chivalrous type.
Gotta have to be polite, sir.
Indeed.
And crewmen's
Captain.
come in bringing food from the chef. Looks like this meal was actually prepared by hand, not replicated. And it's a mixture of Earth dishes. Really looks like the captain replicated, instead of trying to replicate Romulan dishes, he, brought out a variety of, things that we would have from Earth and has them on the table. And then also no alcoholic beverages, just straight up water for everyone.
Come on, no Romulan ale.
No Romulan ale.
I'll look to the captain. Captain, would you excuse us for a few moments? We just want to touch base on a few of those plans that you and I were just discussing.
Of course, Commander. Take all the time you need.
I motion to the door and have Montgomery go through it.
I just did the little thing where I do like a little 2-finger salute and I walk through the door.
And once we're away from the door, I go, all right, so
Yes.
how quickly can you enact those security features of intensifying the gravity of the deck bleeding?
I've already been working on that since we started transporting people to the ship.
So how quickly would it take you to get it to up and functioning, like in a moment's notice?
Relatively easily, actually. The computer just had to be overridden with a few protocol safety changes.
All right, well, the situation of this warbird has me sitting on edge, and it had when our specialist also little on edge. This Varen, who is the commander, she's willing to do anything to get what she needs to restore the Romulan Empire. She gave us a list of things that of supplies that she would like. We can do a lot of like the medical and food supplies, but there are also energy cells and weapons that are on here that, due to us being a hospital ship and also against Starfleet protocols, we cannot give. However, being Bajoran and living on Bajor during the occupation, I know that when you are without a homeland, you will do whatever it takes to get what you need to restore that land.
I see. How much of the vessel has been repaired?
The repairs that we were able to do, or they would let us do, have been done. Poor Ensign Loggins had to clean the sanitary system.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Very well.
Monday was also reported that there was an interesting device attached to the Singularity core.
Interesting how?
Tachyon into string.
For what purpose?
The speculation, wormhole generation, shorts, like wormhole generation.
I see. Well then, I must excuse myself from dinner. But first, I wish to put on an act before I leave.
By all means.
Thank you. Shall we?
After you.
And he'll walk on in, and he'll just walk over to the table there, look at his plate. What food does he have? What did the captain try to give him?
I don't think the captain would have tried to give him anything, but there is a variety of all sorts of food that Montgomery would have his pick of.
All right, I just put together a little plate. Like, oh, terribly sorry, I have to dine and dash. I'm just going to take a bit of this. And is there like any like creams or sauces on the table?
Sure.
He's just going to dip his finger in one, like, this is good. I'm just going to pour some of this too. Okay. Have fun. Sorry, I can't stay. Got things to do. Apparently, I have a long list of things to take care of. He's just going to fumble a bit with his plate and make it look like he dropped a couple of things on the floor and accidentally step on one of them and then head on out.
Varen turns to the captain. Captain, do you have an android on your vessel? The captain kind of straightens his shirt. If you're referring to Ensign Montgomery, he is a very valuable member of my crew, but yes, he is an android. And Varen looks, she raises an eyebrow again. She says, quite surprised that you would have such an abomination on this ship.
Damn, I really need to work on that subroutine to make myself appear more human.
I just kind of raise an eyebrow. Well, Commander, to the Federation, all life is worth meaning, artificial or not. Still an organism and still should be given those rights and the respect that comes with it.
She says, you will forgive me, Commander, if Romulans have a very difficult time trusting the Federation.
Oh, hey, we didn't do this again. We gotta keep remembering this. Laboratory setup for the ship. Particle generation.
Okay.
And as Monty's leaving, he's just gonna find a crewman. He's just gonna hand off the plate to him. Like, that's yours now. And I'm heading to deflector control.
Okay. And as Montgomery races off, Varen looks to you, Talise. So, Major, I'm interested. What do you think about the suitability of the planet?
I do not believe it would be a good base of operations. The wildlife, indigenous or otherwise, is very hostile, and the current inhabitants are more or less primitive to a fault.
And she says, well, I will take that into advisement on our decisions for the next part of our operation. Thank you, Major. It is unfortunate that the Ulan accompanying you was killed. We always had a hard time trying to find out what to do with him. It's apparently that his incompetence led to even further mistakes, and I'm sure ultimately led to his death. So perhaps did all of us a favor.
Talise doesn't grimace or really show any emotion, but she does turn to the captain and pretty much out of nowhere and very pointedly asks, Captain, if I be so bold, what exactly is the mission here in Klingon space?
That's a very good question, Major. And I'd like to start it off by saying welcome to the Hope. And I issue this to you and as well as Commander Varen. It's always a pleasure to help those whenever we can. And to further that statement, the mission of the Hope is to provide assistance to anyone that needs it. The Hope's primary function is as a medical vessel. Under the Articles of Interstellar Law, we are functioning in that capacity. Our mission here is one of humanitarian aid. We will help those who need help, whether they be Klingon or Romulan or otherwise. Our primary goal, however, is to continue to the colony on Algoreb 2. We have found that through intelligence information that colony needs the most help. We have seen that the Klingons have been not very generous to the inhabitants there. So that's the primary goal here, but as a medical ship, we'll help whoever needs it.
Tilly's blinks a few times, looks at the commander, then looks at the captain. I'm sorry, Captain. Can you repeat that? You said Algorab 2?
That is correct, Major. It's not very far from our location. We had to divert here to, let's say, run away from a possibly hostile situation we weren't prepared to deal with.
Again, I look at the commander, seeing if she's doing anything.
Varian looks expressionless. Kapir actually looks a little uneasy.
In that case, looking specifically at Kapir, I say, Captain, I did not know if our other guests here were going to tell you this, but we were in the vicinity of the Algorab colony last week. I should say former colony. There is nothing on that planet.
Williamson kind of leans forward. Do you mean the Klingons destroyed it?
Out of character, I don't think you included that in the notes. So I'm just going to say the scans that I saw, Captain, indicated that the planet was uninhabited.
Yeah, there was nothing there. Klingons destroyed nothing because there was nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
Kapir kind of shifts in his chair and he says, I think it's time that I am honest with you, Captain. I am Kapir. That is true. But my full title is Major Kapir of the Tal Shiar. I have for years integrated and managed to infiltrate inside of Starfleet. My primary mission was to get your vessel here in order to provide aid to Commander Varen. I knew that if I went to the Federation myself requesting assistance, especially with the history of the Federation, it is unlikely that they would respond. However, creating a humanitarian situation and falsifying the intelligence data made it seem, well, it created the situation that led the Council to act and to get you here. But no, there is no colony on Algorab 2. That was a falsification.
I just stared daggers at Kapir. Say nothing, but stare daggers.
Kapir says, you must understand why it is difficult for Romulans to trust the Federation. We have asked for assistance from the Federation many times, and we've been disappointed. It was a Federation ambassador who said that he could stop the Hobus supernova and failed. It was a Federation admiral who said that he would relocate Romulan survivors, and he failed.
But we have been relocating Romulans as they've been coming across the border to the best of our ability.
And Varen is still silent the entire time. And Kapir says, but to ask Starfleet to assist a Romulan vessel would, we both know this, would cause endless debate on the Prime Directive and interfering in interstellar politics. That was something I could not allow.
So instead, you took a crew of hospital doctors away from the front lines where we can do good and hopefully try to bring an end to this conflict and give the Romulans back their space like everybody wants. And where we've lost crewmen due to attacks on, for no better way of putting it, a wild goose chase.
And Varen leans forward and she says, as a Bajoran, you should know this better than anyone. You only lost your homeworld. We lost an entire empire to the Klingons. There is no price that is too much to pay. There is no cost that we are not willing to enact on anyone else until we are free. You have the luxury of debating from your comfortable position on your starship, on your paradise world on Earth, but here, things are not quite so easy.
I know exactly what situation you are in. I grew up on Bejor. I was there during the occupation. I lived in the camps. Lost my parents to it. So don't you assume that you think that we have it all. I understand you've lost your homeworld and that you've lost your space. There's nothing that we can do to change that. But pulling us away from the lines where we can do good and to assist in rebuilding, as we've been trying, the whole point we are out here is to come and assist what we thought was a colony, to help build that relation. And what you're showing us now is that you are not willing to trust us to go through the channels to do so.
And Kapar stammers, as an individual, Commander, I trust you. As a member of an organization like the Federation, I trust that you will debate the situation.
Just like the Romulans debate as well. Every form of government has to debate whether to help or to stay neutral. When the Klingons crossed in and took over Romulan space, they broke all the treaties that they had with us too.
And Varen says, there are many inside the Tal Shiar who believe that the Federation is responsible for the Romulans entering the Dominion War. When the Klingons first attacked and invaded Romulan space, there was a diplomatic mission requesting aid from the Federation, but they refused.
Mostly because we were still, in many ways, licking our wounds from the Dominion War. We didn't have the ability to launch full-scale attacks. In many ways, we still don't have the abilities. The Dominion War took out over half of Starfleet. Those personnel, those ships. It's not like it takes a day and we can rebuild.
And she says to you, Tuzan, do you honestly believe that if we had not engaged in this subterfuge, that the Federation would have sent your ship to our assistance anyway?
Anything is possible when you ask.
In our situation, we did not have the luxury of entertaining a denial.
So now we're out here. Basically, because, well, you brought us out here. We have no now directive because you've proved that that directive is false. We've been near destroyed, lost multiple crew members.
She looks at the captain. I can see the welcome that you so graciously offered to us before is most likely no longer. We will return to my vessel, Kapar. Major Kapar will return, which I imagine you have no more place for him. Major Talise, she looks across the table. Will you be accompanying us?
I do not believe I will. As much as I have enjoyed my stay aboard your vessel, Commander, I think it prudent that I stay with Starfleet for the time being.
Very good. I question your usefulness anyway.
Commander, there's no sense wasting a meal such as this. We might have our disagreements, but we are still here to help.
She looks up and she says, I think I've tasted enough of Federation generosity for one day. I'll return to my ship.
Monday's going to be outside holding a bouquet of flowers for her. I'm just kidding. He's not.
Please do it.
And she stands and Kapar follows her and they head out the door towards the transporter.
After they leave, 8 of 13 just kind of breathes out like a big sigh of relief and will kind of open a small compartment, and her one Borg arm pulls out like a Type 1 phaser. Guess we wouldn't have needed that. Is Ensign Montgomery still acting as chief of security?
For the moment.
I'm assuming I should probably relieve him so he can focus on operations. Captain, am I dismissed?
Yes, you are dismissed. This is probably the most unsuccessful dinner party I've ever seen, but you are certainly free to go. Before you go, I've been informed by Counselor Aaron that she has arranged a memorial for Lieutenant Isha within the hour. I think it would be nice for everyone here, apart from you, Major, who did not know the lieutenant, if you get a chance to stop by and pay your respects to the lieutenant.
Of course. And 8 of 13 will walk out.
I'll just turn to the captain. Captain.
And the captain lets out a long sigh. He looks right at Talise. Well, Major, I guess you're going to be with us for a while.
Might be prudent to have me added to your duty roster.
Of course. From what I saw, you look like quite the pilot. Well, also, from Counselor Aaron, which you'll find out, Commander, is she's relieved Mr. Grecken from duty. Apparently, the stress we've been talking about has taken its toll on another member of the crew. So we do have an opening for a con officer if you're interested.
I would be more than happy to facilitate this role. However, I will say that I am equally skilled in matters of science and engineering.
That's good to know. I imagine our next course will be back to Federation territory. I don't think there's much more reason for us to be here. What do you think, Commander?
I agree with you, although I do wish that we could have assisted the Romulans a little bit more.
Guess in a way we did, not perhaps in the way that we expected.
That is true. I guess we'll just have to do more from the other side, helping those that are able to cross the border and working to come up with a somewhat diplomatic solution, although aren't very willing to talk.
So Montgomery, you went to the deflector lab to run some tests. Is that correct?
No, I went to the deflector control to set up basically get everything primed to emit a anti-tachyon field around the ship, and have that ready to initiate the moment anything fishy happens.
Okay. So while you're working on that, we would have crossed over into the time where Isha's service would be happening. Would you continue to keep on with your work and miss the service, or would you show up?
I'd continue to work.
Okay.
But
okay.
I will pull up the service on a display screen.
Okay. So some time passes and the memorial starts in the primary holodeck of the ship. So all arranged by Counselor Aaron. What we see is just a very simple landscape, could be on really any planet. And what she's arranged is a nice, tree of undeterminate origin. And beside the tree is a hologram of Lieutenant Isha. And sitting off to the side is the captain. That's kind of on a raised point of the hill. And a lot of the crew has showed up, the ones that could actually get away from their duties, or the ones that weren't so exhausted from the last few, hours or day of work that you guys have been doing on taking care of the Romulans. But the captain, he waits kind of for the commotion to die down. And he says, Hello, everyone. We are here today to honor Lieutenant Isha. Her loss is a difficult one for us all. And even though I only knew her for a short time, I can say confidently that she was a noble soul, firmly and passionately dedicated to fighting for what she believed in. I hope that she is at peace, and may the great bird of the galaxy guide her to the next part of her journey. Actually, I'm going to drop Talise into this scene. Awkwardly, Talise, you are kind of following the crowd into the holodeck, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, she probably would just go out of respect, even though she didn't know the deceased.
And the captain says, at this point, I would open the floor to anyone that would like to say anything about the lieutenant. He says, of course, you are also all free to pay your respects in your own way.
At this point, Lenars is going to step forward.
Okay.
You'll see that in his hands he has a rather like light gray looking colored glass replica of the Xenet homeworld in his hands. And as he's holding it, he's just kind of looking at it as he talks. I can't necessarily say that I knew the lieutenant well. Whenever we were first being taken to the Hope, she was probably the one I talked with the most, but when we came to this ship, we sort of went our separate ways. But I know that she was one hell of a security officer, and while she may no longer be with us, I feel like somewhere she is watching us still. Out of character, the captain knows the whole situation about how I'm a silver blood now, correct?
Yeah, the captain and probably everyone at this point.
Okay. And while I may not necessarily be a true Bajoran, I believe that the prophets are watching her as well. And he'll just kind of take out like a smaller glass replica of the same thing and just sort of set it down at the feet of the hologram of Lieutenant Isha, and just kind of steps back into the line.
And actually, GM Josh, I think this is a good time for Isha's message to play.
Sure, take it away.
So, the hologram of Isha, just sort of standing there. There's a momentary shimmer before it comes back, and when the hologram clears back up, you can see that Isha's wearing a much more serious expression, and her hologram says, "If you are hearing this, then what I have feared most has come to pass. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I will be brief. I believe that we have been led into a situation that has been engineered by forces outside of our control, and that it will eventually lead to the Hope being destroyed. I can't do much from this cell, but what I can do is this. Should you find yourself in a firefight, should you find yourself fighting against impossible odds, activate program Isha Beta 97 Omega. It should help you." And again, if you're hearing this and there's a moment of hesitation, don't dwell on me too long. It's not what I would have wanted. And that's it.
And the captain kind of solemnly lowers his head a bit and starts to turn to walk away, and Several people start filing out. What would Tuzan be up to while this was going on?
I think Tuzan's going to go back to after it's all said and done, and do some meditation. Call on the prophets.
And Tuzan, as Tuzan walks away, Lenoris, you're sort of there by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you start to feel almost ill for a moment. And then there's a flash of light. And you're standing in a room with 3 figures that are frozen. Next to you is a Cardassian child, and 2 humans are standing ahead. It's like one human is wearing a Starfleet uniform, and the other human looks like a hologram, or at least a holographic communication. And it looks like some kind of building. As you turn and glance out, you see that it's near the ocean. You don't exactly recognize where it is, but the Cardassian child, it's a young girl. She turns to you and she says, "You are a copy, but you are not a copy. You are from Bajor, but you are not from Bajor. There is much confusion in your paw."
As I'm standing here, am I able to like move? Am I able to?
Yeah, you can move around. These 2 figures here are frozen.
Interesting. Do I recognize Dr. Maddox or not really? I would assume more towards the latter. But...
You probably don't recognize Maddox. He would be a more obscure figure in your background.
Okay. And I turn to the young Cardassian girl and I'm like, "You could certainly say that, yes." And I sort of kneel down so I'm at her height so I can have eye contact with her. I'm starting to have a hard time believing if I truly belong on the ship that I'm on.
And she tilts her head to the side and she says, "Regret is a wound that never heals." And when she says that, the 2 figures in the background come to life and continue speaking like maybe we had frozen in a moment in time. And the man on the left, Maddox, says, "Haftel, you must get him out. Imagine the loss of scientific progress if they're both destroyed." And Haftel replies, "Bruce, I'm a retired old man. I don't have that kind of pull. I might be able to get one of them out. You're going to have to decide which one is more important." And Maddox paces for a moment and he rubs his chin. It's B4. I can't risk B4 being destroyed. He will stay here where it's safe. And Haftel says, "Are you sure, Bruce? They'll keep him in a box. From what you've told me, the Montgomery unit is in no way ready to blend in with society." And Maddox interrupts. "He's come a long way. The defect in his neural net is still present. What if I uploaded the memory engrams from Ensign Fulton? He'll think he went to Starfleet Academy at least long enough to get to safety." And then Haftel, he shakes his head. "Bruce, you're playing with fire here. If you think it'll hold, I have an old friend who's still a captain on the frontier. Now, getting Montgomery out there will be difficult. He'll probably have to be deactivated, but we should be able to fabricate the logs to make it look like he's Fulton." And the poor boy.
I'm going to try something weird.
Okay.
I'm going to attempt to speak to them and just be like, "Might I ask which captain you're speaking of?"
And Haftel, he stops speaking and he turns to you. "Why, it's Captain Williamson on the Hope, of course."
I see. And he'll just kind of let them return to their conversation.
And Maddox just turns to Haftel. Like, Maddox didn't realize that you had interrupted, and like Haftel wasn't that responded to, but Maddox says, "If that's the best you can do, Admiral, then that's what we have to do." And Hatzell says, well, the poor boy's been dead so long that no one will likely be the wiser if Montgomery takes his place. And the young girl says to you, she says, that one is a copy, but is also not a copy. Regret is a wound that never heals.
Is she talking about Montgomery? Or am I able to discern that?
That is up to you.
Okay.
And the young Cardassian girl, she reaches out her hand and she holds your hand, Lenaris. And there's another flash. And now you're in a very... So where you are now is a world that you've never been on before, but it's obviously in complete chaos. So the architecture looks Romulan, but most of the architecture is on fire. In the sky above you, you see a mixture of Romulan and Klingon vessels obviously engaged in combat. The Romulan vessels mostly are being shot down, they're crashing, and the Klingon vessels are attacking them and then also shooting weapons down into this encampment. There are Romulans running back and forth in just complete and total chaos and anarchy. And you see, going through the crowd, Commander Varen. She is not stopping to help anyone. She is rushing towards to a location, just ignoring people's cries for help. She is hell-bent and intent on one place that she's going to.
I'm going to follow her.
As you follow her, the girl is still holding your hand. She's also keeping up with you. And she says, this one is filled with regret.
Is it about all this, kind of like pointing to the destruction around him?
And she looks at you and she tilts her head to the side and she says, it is a wound that never heals.
Of course. And as he turns to start following her again, in a strange like show of emotion from him, you see like if there's like a cut in the camera, you would see his hand kind of like just squeeze this person's hand just a little bit tighter as he follows.
And as Varen is making her way through the colony, Klingons start to materialize from transporter beams and start attacking people. And Varen still just pushes past them. She doesn't engage. She doesn't try to save anyone. She is still hell-bent on arriving at whatever destination that she's headed towards. And she eventually stops outside of a house, and the house is on fire. It's actually quite a blaze. And she makes it to the front door and she's screaming, Jalan, I'm here. Let's go. I came back for you. And stepping out of the door is a young Romulan girl. The girl makes it just outside the door when an energy weapon comes flying out of the sky, hits the building, maybe this building, and both buildings completely go up. They're completely destroyed. Varen is thrown back very far. You, Lenaris, are close. You aren't affected. You aren't wounded, but you can feel the heat of the explosion from these two buildings. And when the debris settles, there is nothing. Maybe some rubble, but there is no way anyone survived. And Varen is off to the side. She's dragging herself on the ground, still heading towards the rubble. She's covered in green blood, wounds all over. And she's still dragging herself towards where the child was.
When the two buildings kind of went up, with any of the debris that came towards me, did it actually like physically hit me, or did it sort of just go through?
It went around you, sort of like Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. It should have hit you. You were at the right place. It just didn't.
I'm gonna see if I can even interact with any of this physically, other than the walking. I'm going to start sifting through the rubble of that one house, if I can.
You can sift through the debris. You can.
And is Varen on her feet, or is she like crawling?
She is crawling. There's a trail of her blood behind her. She has wounds on the side of her face, but she is still, one hand in front of the other, trying to crawl towards the rubble of the building. She has a communicator on her wrist that beams to life, and someone says, it's a male voice, and it says, Commander, we have to transport you now. We can't wait anymore. And Varen doesn't even pay attention. She's continuing to crawl, and then she transports away. Like, she didn't even realize what was happening. She's still trying to get to where the girl was.
Good lord. I am going to continue sifting through, either until there's that other flash or until I find a body.
The girl just watches you. There is another flash, and you are in a laboratory that is familiar to you. You can't exactly remember why, but you feel like you've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl is still, she's holding your hand, standing beside you. Above you, higher up in the laboratory, you see the real Linaris Furel, and you see Dr. Lupus. Dr. Lupus storms into the room. He seems very passionate about something. And he says, Linaris, the reports are coming in from the border. They used the weapon on a Cardassian world. And Linaris says, of course he did, Lupus. Biomimetic gel, retroviral vaccine, it makes a biogenic weapon. You knew this. And Lupus says, I thought it was going to be a deterrent. I had no idea he intended to use it, especially not on civilians. And Linaris says, the Cardassians haven't been afraid of using weapons on civilians during the occupation. You're fighting for your conscience here. We're fighting for our world. And Lupus says, this is too far, Linaris. I'll be no more part of this. You just remember, Lupus, the blood here is on your hands as well. I trust you'll keep quiet to save your own skin. And then the two of them vanish. There's a moment of quiet. And the little girl looks up at you, Linaris, and she says, you are a copy, but you are not a copy. Regret is a wound that never heals. You killed me, but you did not kill me.
And I just kind of look at her if there's any time left in this, I feel, and just be like, why are you showing me this?
And you do not get an answer because with a flash, you are standing back in the holodeck. Talise, I don't know if you know Linaris very well at this point. I don't think we've actually put the two of you much together.
They have not.
But
Yep,
you
this
would
is
have
the first time.
You would have noticed while all of this happened, Linaris had a look of confusion on his face. Like, this happened in Linaris's world very quickly to the real world, but for him, he's experienced a large amount of time. He had a look of a lot of concern, distress on his face while this was happening, and you would have been one of the few people in the area around him to notice this.
Pardon me, Chief, or sorry, I'm not really up to date on Starfleet rank. Are you all right?
If I'm going to be honest, he kind of looks her over. Is there anything on her clothing that would like signify any sort of rank?
Talise, yeah, she's got a major insignia.
Okay. To be quite honest, Major, no.
Well, funerals like this always do bring out a large amount of emotion, or so I've observed.
No, this might have been different. GM Josh, out of character, being a copy of a Bajoran, would I know what an orb experience is?
I think you would.
Okay. I believe I had what some might call an orb experience.
Her eyebrow kind of does that Spock thing where it arcs. And she says, an orb experience, but there is no orb here.
Yes, so it confuses me as to why I had it. I think I might need time to mull this over. Major, and he gives a slight bow and exits the holodeck.
I think Talise is probably one of the last ones out, if not the last one out. And she sort of just gives the Isha hologram one last look, and the holodeck doors close behind her.
Can Monty do something?
Sure.
Monty, while he's observing all of this, he doesn't really express anything. But the moment she says those command phrase, he stops what he's doing and looks around for a second. The computer, analyze Isha Beta 79 Omega. What type of program is this?
And the computer comes back and says, Beta 79 Omega is a tactical program for use against either Klingon or Romulan targets.
Computer, can I have a full readout of it sent to my pad?
And when it does, you see that it's a large series of maneuvers, uh, tactical sort of settings like phaser frequencies, shield modulations, things of that nature.
Okay. Monty will start to work it in with what he's been thinking of.
And Montgomery, as you're going through the file, the computer makes a beep and it says, analysis complete. And what the computer's been chewing on is the data that you had from the away team from logins and Monday on the tachyon device that was tied into the quantum singularity at the core of the ship. It was running an analysis basically, and it's come up with something for you.
All right, I'll take a look at it.
And basically, what it pops up is, do you remember the Klingon vessel that you guys encountered, and there was that distortion that was pulling the Klingon vessel?
Yep.
That purpley distortion thing. It says there's a 99% match with that distortion and a distortion that this tachyon device could create with the quantum singularity.
Okay, I am switching from making an anti-tachyon field to a graviton conjugate pulse.
And where we will end today's session on is a scene on the Romulan vessel. So there's a Romulan walking down a hallway, basically, and he's got the Romulan version of a pad, and he's flipping through it, and he's like, systems operational, weapons system, containment systems, let's see, biomedic gel system are operational or recovered. Let's see, what else did we recover? Retrovirus vaccine. He's walking further down the hallway. Let's check on the crop. I believe we are ready for another harvest. And he walks a little further, and we see rows upon rows of vegetation in a sealed environment, and this vegetation is growing lots of purple or pink spores that we have seen in previous episodes. This Romulan lab, as it were, is growing many rows upon rows of these, and some are being taken and put into briefcase size containers.